I couldn't eat all day.
Ready.
Together.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, July 15th, 2014 City Council meeting to order. I ask you to please rise for our invocation and our pledge, which will be led by our City Attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Our Father in heaven, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is in the best interest of the City of Oldsmar. This we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and once again, welcome. A lot of yellow shirts in the house tonight. We're glad you guys came out. We have a couple items on the agenda that we're going to move around. You'll see those when we get to those in the interest of time. I've already discussed it with those involved. Our first item tonight is our Citizens Open Forum. And what I want to ask, first of all, is if you have a cell phone, if you could turn it down or off, that would be great. Our Citizens Open Forum allows you to address the City Council. We only have a couple of rules that you keep it to no more than 5 minutes. You state your name and your address clearly for the record, and lastly, do not address anything that is on tonight's council agenda. We'll start to this side of the room. Anybody wish to address the council? Yeah, come on.
Tony Gross, 711 Santon Leaf Avenue. I'll wait for the DVD to begin. 3 years ago today, my son, U.S. Army Corporal Frank R. Gross, died of injuries sustained from an IED while serving our nation in Afghanistan. Throughout the difficult time that followed, my community, Oldsmar, embraced and supported my husband, Craig, our daughter, Natalie, and me. I'd like to thank you for supporting us then and now, as Oldsmar will once again be the location for the 2014 Gold Star Mothers and Families Day ceremony. This year, the ceremony will be held Sunday, September the 28th at 10 a.m. in hopes of avoiding extreme heat and torrential rains, as you can see from the slide. I'd like to invite each of you to attend, as Councilmember Ms. Gabby McGee will return to open the ceremony and welcome the attendees. These are scenes from last year's ceremony, held at Oldsmar's beautiful Veterans Memorial Park located at 250 Shore Drive East. As you can see, it was very well attended, although it was really, really hot. These are photos of the Gold Star families that attended. We had about 30 of them. This is the Patriot Guard riders who support the Gold Star families. In addition to the 100 chairs that Oldsmar's Parks and Leisure Services has graciously committed to provide, I would like to request that the blue and white canopy or tent pictured in the next photo, one after this, okay, right here, which will shade our Gold Star family members, be set up along the side of the walkway as shown by the red marked area in that last photo. This would give the Tampa Bay Ballet plenty of room to perform their dance, okay? If you could finish the rest of that DVD, please. Okay, that's the marked off area. It's right below the step up. Okay, if you can keep playing it. Resume, please. Maybe. This year's ceremony will be a blessing to Tampa Bay's families of the fallen, as it was last year, and my hope is that each of you might be able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Mike, for getting that in last minute, too.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Anybody on this side of the room like to address the council? Yep, Jerry.
Jerry Custin, Tampa Bay Chamber, 101 State Street. First of all, I'd like to say condolences to the Gross family, and obviously thank you for your service, and I hope to be part of that again this year. That's for sure. I just wanted to mention that Oldsmar is also hosting tomorrow night the opening ceremonies for the USSSA Global World Series. I have about 50 teams in town to play over the weekend, Thursday through Sunday. So they're bringing a lot of people into the city, and Mayor Rivas will be there to welcome the teams and have a parade of teams. And that'll back up the event that they had last week. I think we had about 35. I was on vacation, had about 35, 40 teams last week. So another nice big sports event for Oldsmar, and you want to come out and see those kids. I understand it's a very good thing to see. I missed it myself last week, but I'll be there tomorrow night.
It was good last week. They had teams from Colombia and from Puerto Rico and from other parts of the country. So it's not just local, it's international. So it's great. Yeah. Anybody else on this side or anybody else in the room in general that I missed that would like to address the council as part of the Citizens Open Forum? Am I missing anybody? Seeing no one, we'll close the Citizens Open Forum. The first item on the agenda is our Community Redevelopment Agency, which has approved the one item additional citywide street resurfacing work with, can't read it on my agenda, Oldcastle Southern Group Incorporated under Hillsborough County Contract for milling, resurfacing, and traffic marking on St. Petersburg Drive from State Street to east to Tampa Road. Bruce, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As you stated, that we are requesting that this portion of St. Petersburg Drive be added to the annual street resurfacing contract that was approved in January. The cost of this work is $39,000, and as you said, it covers that portion of St. Petersburg Drive between State Street and Tampa Road.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is our consent docket, where we have 3 items. Approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2014 City Council meeting, approve the minutes of the June 17th, 2014 Council meeting, and approve payment to legal counsel. Does anybody wish to pull anything?
No.
If not, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next is the City of Oldsmar, presentation of the Council Manager Award, and Vice Mayor Norris is going to do that.
Deputy Rick Serra come up, please. There he is. This is my pleasure to do this. That's one of the best part about being on the council is every couple times, I don't know, it rotates, we get to pick who gets this award. And with everything that Deputy Serra has done for Oldsmar, I thought it was hands down, especially since he's gotten a promotion and he's going to be leaving us. His heart will be here, but he's going to be leaving us. So would you like to tell everybody where you're going, what you're doing?
It wasn't quite a promotion. It's a lateral transfer. So I'll be in the training division now with the sheriff's office. So I'll be teaching recruits and other agency employees.
You'll be a great teacher. And these are some highlights. He served for 6 years in the U.S. Navy, and he's been with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for 21 years. He was assigned to the Oldsmar Community Policing Department for the past 8 years, so he's been I can tell you from personal experience, anytime that you need anything, any questions asked, any fears, anything, he's been right there for for me for sure, and for a lot of people here in Oldsmar. So we're definitely going to miss him. And one of the favorite things that I like that he does is the Christmas holiday sharing event, where you go ahead and tell him, but I get involved every year because he's such a good advocate. he never fails to come and try to get as many people involved. And so tell him a little bit about that too, okay? Not that they don't know, but.
Okay. What it is, we get the community involved, such as the Moose Lodge, and we get other business partners. And basically what they do is they adopt families within the city. So these children, just the children, not the moms and the dads, but children can have a great Christmas. They buy toys. They'll even buy meals for them at Christmas time. Throughout the year, the Holiday Sharing Fund is an organization that we had started, and we raise money for bicycles, helmets, and locks. So at Christmas time, we donate those. We don't ask our, I guess, as you would say, our donors, because a bicycle can be expensive, and if somebody bought a bicycle, they might not get other toys. So the Holiday Sharing Fund takes care of that for them.
He does a lot. And he is one of only 2 police mountain bike instructors at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, lead instructor for Teen Driver Challenge, and it is the training department that's going to be the training division that's going to be getting him. So it is with my honor and privilege to be able to give this to you, Rick.
I appreciate it.
And I have to say this, I think that at the City of Oldsmar softball baseball game versus y'all, I think we lost, right? I wasn't able to go, so I'm glad I didn't see it.
Can you guys back there turn her mic off, please?
That was one of the events that the Holiday Sharing Fund has throughout the year, which is a softball charity game. We raise money for the proceeds to buy bicycles at Christmas time. And then the next, yes, we did win 6-8. We got our title back. We lost to the city last year, but we got our title back. So
It was a good game.
I think it's 3 PCSO and city 1. So we've got it for 3 years.
I actually think it's 4-1, but who's counting?
But and then our next event will be guns versus hoses, which is the firefighter, deputy sheriffs in a wing eating contest. So we'll see how that one goes this year.
Thank you, Rick.
Congratulations, Rick.
As a side note, I do have to say this is, and I'm not just tooting the city's horn or anyone else's horn, this has been the greatest city to work for. If they've needed something, they've used the community police officer to communicate what those needs were to the sheriff's office, and that's what the community police officers should be doing. There's so many different things that we've resolved within the community and made some great partnerships. I've made some great friends, and I've built a great rapport here, and it will truly be missed, and I'm not just saying that. It was very hard for me to take this transfer to the training unit, but it was something that I've always wanted to do. So I thank each and every one of you for supporting me throughout the years. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Next is our city attorney.
Yes, the 6th item on your agenda tonight is the second and final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-06. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2014-06, an ordinance of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, amending the Town Center Development Code by deleting tattoo parlors and body piercing facilities from the definition of restrictive uses set forth in Section 2.1 of Article 2 and providing for an effective date hereof. That was the second and final reading of ordinance 2014-06 by title only, and it requires a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody from the public wish to address this item, either for or against? Do I see a name? Yep.
My name is Rosemary Wiseman. My address is 437 Lafayette Boulevard. I'm sorry I missed the first go-round on this topic, but I've made it for this one. And I did want to voice my objection to the City Council adopting an amendment to change the CRA. When this was originally adopted, it was a lot of thought and planning that went into this. A lot of people put their input in, a lot of people were heard, and at the time, the best plan was adopted for the city. I think if the City Council goes ahead and makes the amendment, changes this to allow this type of business, I think it's a big mistake. I think the City Council needs to be true to your vision. You envision something for the City of Oldsmar. You envision something for this downtown, and I think that you need to stick with that. Also, this could be a very slippery slope. You do this once for somebody, you might have to do it again. After a while, the downtown is completely different than what was envisioned, and then you ask yourself, oh my goodness, how did it get this way? Well, it's a slippery slope, and that's how you get started. Also, the third thing that is very distressing to me as a citizen is to read in the paper that the proposed owner of this business wants to use the library across the street as unpaid childcare. She's been quoted numerous times in the paper as saying, this is so convenient for me, I can just send the kids across the street to the library while I conduct my business. As a taxpayer for the City of Oldsmar, I don't want to see my tax dollars for the library used for the library staff being unpaid babysitters. I think it's wrong on so many levels. And that's just a side note to this. So I really hope that you consider what you're doing and vote no. Do not allow this type of business at this location. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it should be said, Rosemary,
Yes, sir.
you did have a part in this back in the middle 1990s. Rosemary was on council.
Well, that was a long time ago, and that's really not the reason I'm speaking up. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me who drafted that initially.
No, but it's nice to people to know that you were part of that.
But I do wish that you all be true to Oldsmar. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wish to address this either for or against?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Ricardo Santiago, 1706 Azalea Court. I'm one of the business owners, and the reason why I stood up is because, as we know, it was on the paper, and it was a misquote. We don't intend to use the library for childcare. We do have babysitters, and I intend to stay at home also with the children at night. If the business is open till 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, whatever time you guys decide that we're allowed to be open. I got nothing else to say other than we were misquoted. There was a misquote. Not only us, another business owner was misquoted. The lady next door said something that was completely changed on the paper. So I just want everybody to know that we don't intend to use the library. We do use the library for personal use. We go almost daily to the library because we're right across the street, but never the children by themselves. They're 6 and 9. So they won't be walking over there.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the public? Am I missing anyone? Nope. We'll close the public hearing portion of the subject, and I need a motion.
So moved.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. And further discussion on the item? We had some discussion last time, and while I appreciate the comments that you made, the one thing that I also think that we as a council, not just necessarily on this item, but on a lot of items for the city, you know, cities are a very fluid machine, and you know, we as a council try and look at things in the current state. And, you know, sometimes ordinance needs to change, things needs to change. We're looking at our you know, Tampa Road corridor plan, and although, yes, we adopted that, we feel that through things that have happened, sometimes you need to change them and tweak them. And, you know, I think the discussion that happened last meeting, which you missed, was that it's a little bit different era than it was potentially when the ordinance was originally written, and that, the same people that rode the Harley Davidsons and got the tattoos of yesterday are not the ones of today. I could probably ask the guys in the yellow shirts to raise their hand who have tattoos. Go ahead. I don't mind if you do. And those are our professional firefighters. And, I know attorneys and vice mayors that have. We're definitely going to keep an eye on it. And, the business owner is doing other things besides just a tattoo parlor. It's a very art-based business that's going in there. And so, I think the council felt that it was something that could be changed and fit into the downtown redevelopment area. So that's my only comment. Go ahead.
Well, since you said that, it's not about tattoos. Rosemary's right. It's not about that. I told you my grandmother had one in 1920 on her arm. It said, a heart said mom on it. It's not about tattoos. It's about changing the ordinance. It is a slippery slope when you start doing that. This doesn't set a precedent, but it's the first step to whatever. It may never happen again, but it's not about tattoos, gang. It's about the changing of an ordinance of a downtown redevelopment area that we put tons and tons of hours in. That's all.
Yeah, and I would agree. It's not about that. And again, it gets back to changing the ordinance, because I think that we're a very forward-thinking city council, and what applied 10, 15, 20 years ago may not apply, and not just this, but other things. And I'd like to think that whether it's this council or a council moving forward, that we're open-minded enough to listen to the people, to listen to the public, and make decisions that are in the best interest of the city moving forward. So I wasn't part of that process, but we do have any other discussion? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. No other discussion? Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaverland?
No.
Councilmember Roniker?
Aye.
Councilmember McGee?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2014-06, amending the Town Center Code, definition of restrictive uses to no longer include tattoo parlors and body piercing facilities, is passed and adopted with 4 votes for and 1 against. Beaverland dissenting.
Thank you. Item number 7 on your agenda is the second and final reading and public hearing of ordinance 2014-07. I'll read that by title only. Ordinance 2014-07, an ordinance declaring the intention of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, to annex certain real property located in Section 23, Township 28 South, Range 16 East, further described as 0 Phoenix Avenue, parcel ID number 222816-9660-009-0020, into the corporate limits of the City of Oldsmar, providing for the effective date of this ordinance. It's the second and final reading of ordinance 2014-07 by title only, and it also requires a public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Does anybody in the public wish to address this item either for or against this particular item? I'm missing anybody? No? Seeing no one, will close the public hearing. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. And discussion?
One more time.
one at a time, as he likes to say. Any other thoughts, input? If not, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaverland?
Yes.
Councilmember Roniker?
Aye.
Councilmember McGee?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mayor Beavis?
Aye.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2014-07, annexing vacant lot on Phoenix Avenue into the corporate limits of the City of Oldsmar, is passed and adopted with 5 votes for and 0 against.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Next item, we're going to jump around, and I've cleared with those parties affected by item 8 or involved in item 8. And what we're going to do is we're going to break the city council part into 2 pieces in the interest of time, because item 8 is probably going to be rather lengthy. We're anticipating about a 2-hour time for item number 8. So we're going to move item 11 and 12 up in the interest of time. And it's to adopt 2 resolutions. I'll kind of address them both. I was approached. Actually, at the time, Vice Mayor Miller, who's no longer with us, was approached about potentially putting Deputy Serra on the wall at Veterans Memorial Park. And so the process was kind of started, and then with the passing of Janice, she approached me and we had discussion about the process and how you do that. And at the same time, we decided that it'd be appropriate for, at the time, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, Jerry Custin, to also be considered in that, and to make them an honorary citizen. And by making them an honorary citizen, that then affords them the opportunity to apply to the Veterans Memorial Board and ask to be put on the wall down there. And as was indicated tonight, Rick, 6 years in the Navy and 143 missions over Vietnam? 130 missions over Vietnam. I think, and the time that they spent here in the city and dedicating their time to the city, we felt that that was something that needed to be drafted in a resolution. And at this time, I'll turn it over to our city attorney to read the resolutions.
Yes, and I'd like to read that resolution in its entirety. Resolution 2014-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, granting honorary Oldsmar citizenship to Rick Serra and providing for an effective date. Whereas Rick Serra has been a consistent supporter of the City of Oldsmar, and whereas Rick's accomplishments includes service of 6 years in the U.S. Navy and 21 years in Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. And whereas Rick is one of only 2 police mountain bike instructors at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and whereas Rick was assigned as the Oldsmar Community Policing Deputy for the past 8 years, and whereas Rick initiated and is the current president of the Holiday Sharing Fund Incorporated, and he is involved in the Christmas Sharing Project, and whereas Rick is the lead instructor for the Teen Driver Challenge Program, and whereas Rick was instrumental in keeping the City of Oldsmar safe for the past 8 years. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oldsmar that Section 1, Rick Serra is hereby given honorary citizenship within the City of Oldsmar and be considered a resident within the City of Oldsmar. Section 2, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its adoption. That was a reading of Resolution 2014-12 in its entirety.
I need a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes 5-0.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I think we should make it clear that, that this is going before our Veterans Board, and there's going to be a criteria set, a strict criteria set, who can become a honorary citizen of Oldsmar. You have to have that criteria, or we'll have everybody in the world coming up and wanting to get on the wall, which I don't blame them. But,
I agree. Rick, you come up. Congratulations and welcome to the City of Oldsmar. Would your wife come up here? Sure. Because if you're married, she's a citizen by default.
I appreciate you doing that.
Yes, yeah. No, make sure we know for sure. Oh, sorry. Okay.
That lovely background, please.
Yeah, you can see that. I was afraid to put my arm around Rick and I taser myself.
I was on. I do have to thank the City Council, the Sheriff's Office, because both have been great supporters and letting me do my job. And Janice Miller, I thank her. I know she's watching over us now, and I appreciate this. I really do from the bottom of my heart. It does mean a lot to me. Anyone that is a veteran knows that where you've been and where you came from, that it is a great honor being a veteran in the great country of America. So thank you all again.
Thank you.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and read Resolution 2014-13 in its entirety. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Oldsmar, Florida, granting honorary Oldsmar citizenship to Jerry Custin and providing for an effective date. Whereas Jerry Custin has been a consistent supporter of the City of Oldsmar, and whereas Jerry has been the president of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce for 10 years, and whereas as the president of the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, Jerry has been instrumental in developing the Education Foundation, the Holiday Sharing Fund Incorporated, which provides bikes, helmets, and locks to underprivileged children and promotes bike safety, the Manufacturers Association, the widening of Racetrack Road, the We Mean Business, a program which coordinates in-person meetings with businesses, the mayor and the city manager, the Mayor's Breakfast, an annual event which unites the mayors of Oldsmar and Safety Harbor to raise money for local charities at Christmas. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Oldsmar that, Section 1, Jerry Custin is hereby given honorary citizenship within the City of Oldsmar and shall be considered a resident within the City of Oldsmar. And Section 2, that this resolution shall become effective immediately upon its passage and adoption. Mr. Mayor, that was the reading of Resolution 2014-13 in its entirety.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Jerry? Welcome to Oldsmar. Does this change our population by 4 people now, too?
Hey, kids, great kids. Yeah, I'd like to also thank the city council and of course Janice, and we miss her a lot. I'd also really like to thank the fire department for coming out and supporting Rick and I tonight. You know, Rick, we talked about the guns and hoses coming up. I think we've done that. This will be our 4th time, I think. 3rd time. So far, the fire department has won that. But we decided to do a Freedom Fest this year. Was give the police a chance, and we wanted to do a donut eating contest. But we just try to be fair with everything. We try to be fair with everything we do. All kidding aside, you know, I've been in Oldsmar, I've retired 20 years, but been in Oldsmar 12 or 13, I guess. And the thing I always say about Oldsmar, the really great thing is it's small enough that everybody can know each other. And the bad thing is it's small enough that everybody really does. so yeah, we got to watch that. And Rick, we're really going to miss you because it is a Mayberry type of town, and I think Rick and I have worked very well together. I don't know whether he's Andy Griffith or Barney or vice versa, but it's a great city to work in, and I really appreciate the honorary citizenship. And again, thanks to City Council and everybody involved.
Mayor, I would suggest that we give each one of them a facsimile signed by you
Yeah.
of their resolution.
I think that'd be great. Can we get that? Yeah. We'll go ahead and do that, yeah. Those were the 2 items that we moved ahead. Next is going to be the city manager, but in the interest of how long this might go, we're anticipating probably an hour and a half, if not more. We'd like to take a little 5-minute break. I know we could probably use a break up here real quick, even though we just gotten started. Anybody can kind of regroup, do whatever they do, and then we'll get back into the city manager business. So.
Just point the clicker to the control room behind you, and the right arrow advances. Is this one? Things forward, and if the clicker doesn't work, for some reason, just say next slide, and they'll advance it in the back.
Okay, okay, perfect. And then I point that back there, and it'll switch to the next slide. Okay, so as I come up, you'll load my presentation when my 30 minutes starts. Okay.
Yeah, I know. He went on and on about that to make sure the time was right. Yeah. That way
Yeah. I'm waiting for my green stuff to come in.
They're here. Did you get an email?
An NDS?
No, they'll email you. You go there and
I thought the LT said everything was going to come to NDS and they sorted out.
originally.
They changed.
Yeah, I read the memo. Who's missing?
Yeah, where is it? Oh, we got not the lunch sale.
Am I getting my picture taken with the close?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's already something about becoming a citizen.
Still more going on. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
No, I'm glad you got to see both. I would have come in 2 meetings, but the timing wise.
No, sincerely, I appreciate it.
It was good timing, you know. All these the last 6, 8 months, it's all happened for a reason. Conversation, the open doors. I mean,
I know.
6, 8 months ago, who would ever envision it? I know it's you losing here, or they're losing, we're gaining, but they don't understand. They will when I meet. We teach all of our, including us.
It's a lot right now, and I'm just absorbing, but I'm still wanting to jump in now. I'm like, well, take it all in.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Especially now.
No, it's Dan. Come on.
Yes. Break at 7:30 exactly.
Couldn't see his face.
He's got to stay for the whole meeting. This boy's got him to the wrong meeting.
I figured at some point you would.
I don't think we've ever taken a break 40 minutes in either.
I'm surprised.
Power save mode?
If you could take your seats, please. We'll go ahead and get started. Nobody here from CH2.
Turn to me first, and then we're going to move this.
We'd like to go ahead and get started. We could have everybody quiet down, please.
No gentleman in the back. No, I meant that. I think so.
We're going to go ahead and get started, but before we do that, we have a Boy Scout here tonight that's getting his communications badge, and I would like to ask him to come to the podium and state his name and tell us what he's doing. And you picked a heck of a meeting to come to.
Hi, I'm Quinn. Wait, do I have to state my address and stuff?
Yeah, if you want to.
4822 Ridgemore Circle, Palm Harbor, Florida. I'm here because one of the requirements for the communications merit badge, which is required for Eagle, which is the highest scout rank, is to attend a town meeting, and so that's what I'm doing here. So.
Well, congratulations. How many years have you been a scout?
I've been in scouts, I don't know how many years. All I know is I've been in scouts since I was in like first grade.
A long time, right, Dad? Did Dad look at the agenda tonight or no?
All the shirts outside, I was like, something going on.
Well, congratulations, and enjoy the evening. How about a round of applause for him getting his badge? It's always nice to see them come before our council with all the things that kids seem to get themselves wrapped up into that can kind of steer them in the wrong direction. It's always nice to see, the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts and, the Girl Scouts and the Brownies all still continuing to thrive and do well. And so good luck on your Eagle Scout. Next is the city manager, but I'm going to turn it over to our city attorney to introduce it.
Right, this is item number 8. This is to settle impasse on retirement benefits with Unit 1, the Palm Harbor Oldsmar Professional Firefighters, Local 2980, IAFF. This process, I'm going to explain the process to you. There is going to be, and it's very specifically timed so that you understand, and I'll try to keep us on track here, and the city clerk is going to be watching time as well. But we're first, and I'm just going to go through all 6 portions of this. The first thing we're going to do is there's going to be a presentation by the City of Oldsmar. The city's labor attorney, Erin Jackson, will be doing that. She will make her presentation, and she'll be limited to 30 minutes. She doesn't have to take all 30 minutes. She's limited to 30 minutes. The second is that there is going to be a presentation by the union and its attorney, Mr. Brantley. His presentation will be limited to 30 minutes. Then there's the rebuttal by the City of Oldsmar. That's going to be limited to 5 minutes. Rebuttal by the union, limited to 5 minutes. And then comments from the public, limited to 30 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker. And then there's going to be city council discussion and a resolution of the impasse. If you have questions for either the City of the city's presentation or the union's presentation, my request is that you wait until they complete their presentation so that you don't use up any of their time, and then ask your questions. And then if there are questions after the rebuttal, we can address that at that point. But so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. And so, and if you could be prepared with the clock, the City of Oldsmar, Erin Jackson, the city's labor attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Trask. Council, there is no higher priority for the city as stewards of the public trust than to provide quality public safety protection to its citizens. The city has devoted a significant percentage of its resources to public safety infrastructure and equipment and to employee compensation, and that continues even through these difficult economic times. I want to start out by saying we all have the utmost respect and admiration for our fire and rescue personnel. Now I'd like to take you through a bit of background as to how we got here tonight. The city and the union are parties to a collective bargaining agreement, which expired on September 30th. And negotiations started for a new 3-year contract in June of 2013. The parties met on numerous occasions and were able to tentatively agree to the majority of the terms. But unfortunately, there were 4 provisions that the parties could not agree to. As the city started tracking, well, as the parties, started tracking toward impasse, the city determined that it must declare impasse on these 4 issues. Negotiations continued, and the city ultimately was only needed to go to impasse on 2 issues, which were pension and wages. There was a hearing held pursuant to Florida statute before a special magistrate. And at that hearing, the parties were able to come to agreement on the wages issue, leaving only one final article at impasse. And that article is on pension. The special magistrate issued his ruling, and unfortunately, the ruling is replete with errors and misstatements of fact. The city filed exception to the magistrate's decision. The only step remaining is to have the council resolve this impasse. And I'd like to read to you now from Section 447-403 of the Florida statute, which speaks to what you'll need to do this evening, the duties that you are specifically charged with by statute. And it states in pertinent part, the legislative body shall conduct a public hearing at which the parties will be required to explain their positions with respect to the rejected recommendation of the special magistrate. Thereafter, the legislative body shall take such action as it deems to be in the public interest, including the interest of the public employees involved, to resolve the disputed impasse issue. The city's proposal is to freeze the current Chapter 175 plan, immediately vest all members, give them an option of a lump sum payout if they so wish, and enroll all current and future firefighters in FRS. Now, as part of my presentation, and the majority of the presentation is going to be provided by your city manager, Mr. Haddock. And for all of the reasons that he's going to share with you, the plan in place now is not sustainable over the long haul. Contrary to the special magistrate's recommendation and contrary to the union's proposal, there are significant risks associated with maintaining this plan as it stands. The city must be proactive and not reactive to protect the interests and welfare of its citizens. Difficult decisions have had to be made with the unknown of what the future holds. And what the city is offering is a solid guarantee as it relates to the current retirement plan for these firefighters. We ask that you adopt our position, and with that, we're ready to present the basis for our proposal. Mr. Haddock.
Thank you. I think Ms. Jackson covered how we got to where we are this evening, so we can go on to an initial discussion about the pension cost. This is a relatively new plan. It's been in existence since 1996. There are 13 active members. Only 5 are vested. There's 1 retiree who is disabled. The contribution rates, this is a percent of payroll, and when the plan was initiated in 1996, it was funded by insurance premium taxes only. In 2014, the contribution rate as a percent of payroll is 30%, and in the last few years it has been as high as 38%. Now, there are Chapter 175 plans in Florida that have higher rates. 20% of them exceed 50% of their payroll cost. And tonight, the one remaining article that the council will decide this evening is Article 25, retirement benefits. Everything else we have agreed to during our negotiating sessions. There are significant risks involved with the Chapter 175 plan. And two of these are related to revenue and how the plan is funded. And there is always a possibility of what the legislature might do to detrimentally impact the funding of the 175 plan and the use of insurance premium taxes, or it could be an administrative decision by the Division of Retirement that has a negative impact on the use of premium tax monies. Of course, there's always risk associated with investments, and their investment return, of course, is significant from year to year. There are good years and bad years. But investment risk is a significant risk over time. Those are the two that are related to income or revenue for the plan. One major risk is related to cost or the liabilities of the plan, and this would be a disability retirement. There's currently one disabled retiree drawing benefits from the plan. In the how the plan is funded and what the annual contribution is determined by an actuary. The actuarial assumptions do not include any future disabilities, so there's no funding put into the plan. And the investment return, as I mentioned, is one of the risks. The plan has an assumed investment return of 7.5% a year. Some years it exceeds that, and some years it is less than that, as that wouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But I want to give you an example to keep in mind that if the plan loses 7.5% in a given year, that actually puts you 15% behind, because these projections are assuming 7.5% increase every year. So if you lose 7.5%, you're really 15% behind. The other risk about a disability retirement, a plan with only 13 members, one disability is a major issue that would impact the cost of the plan. But all of these risks, in the final analysis, fall back on the Oldsmar taxpayers, as the city is the guarantor of the benefits. The union's proposal is to close the current retirement plan, place new employees in the Florida retirement system, do a stop restart, establish a share plan in addition to the current plan. I'm sure they're going to elaborate on all those points, or I expect that they will. The city's proposal is to freeze the current plan, fully vest everyone in it, provide an option for a lump sum payout, transfer current and future firefighters into the Florida retirement system. Benefits of freezing the plan: it will save money for the city in the future. It limits growing liability, and that is each month passes and members accrue additional service, the liability to pay that benefit increases. Freezing the plan will allow firefighters an option of an increased retirement benefit if they choose to work a few more years. All of those categories of major risk that I discussed in the previous slide would be transferred to the state of Florida if the plan is frozen. So what does that mean? What happens with a freeze? Well, the actuary determines each employee's accrued benefit at that point in time where it's frozen, and the member becomes immediately vested in the plan, no matter how long they've worked for the city. So whether they've worked here 4 years or 14 years, they're going to be vested when the plan is frozen. Plan members are given options. They can take a lump sum distribution, or they can leave the funds in the plan and collect them upon retirement. When a plan member retires, he or she will collect from 2 pensions if they do not choose the lump sum. They'll get a payment from the frozen plan, and they'll get a second payment from the Florida retirement system. There are currently only 5 vested members of the plan. No one is close to retirement. There's not anyone who's worked under this plan for 20 years and they're going to retire 5 years from now. This proposal does not take away any pension benefit or reduce any benefit already earned. In fact, state law prohibits such an action as that. This is a benefit-rich plan. Now, where does the money come from to pay for this plan and pay the benefits? Well, there are 4 sources of revenue to pay for it. The employees contribute 5% of pay, and that's determined through the collective bargaining process. There are investment returns, one source of the revenue. Premium tax money, which is a tax on fire insurance premiums paid by Oldsmar taxpayers. And the city contributions come from the general fund. So of these 4 sources of revenue, both the premium tax money and the city contributions come from Oldsmar taxpayers. And as I stated, the city is the ultimate guarantor of the plan. For the 4 most senior members, they have an estimated benefit over their retired life of over $18 million. For these 4 members, it averages $4,677,520 per firefighter under the current plan. Under this plan, the typical member will exceed his or her average final compensation within a few years of retirement. In addition, all firefighters are participants in Social Security, and they will receive Social Security benefits at age 62 or later if they choose to start receiving them later. I mentioned earlier about investment returns and the assumed rate of return of 7.5%. If that were to drop to 5.5%, the city's costs would jump to 60% of payroll. So you can see that not a major shift, or maybe you consider 2% a major shift. It has a very major impact on the city's contribution to this plan, the way it is currently structured. The proposal to move employees into the Florida retirement system, it's not exactly comparing apples to apples or oranges to oranges, but there are benefits of the Florida retirement system compared to the existing plan. One is a shorter vesting period. The existing plan has a 10-year vesting period. FRS is 8 years. The employee contribution is less. It would be 3% compared to the current 5% employees are contributing. So moving to FRS, employees would get an extra 2% in take-home pay immediately. Our retirement system offers a drop program. The city's 175 plan does not. Firefighters continue to receive a defined benefit plan. The city's long-term financial interests are protected by shifting risk to a much larger plan operated by the state of Florida. This is the plan that Hillsborough County firefighters belong to, Pasco County firefighters belong to, and here in Pinellas County, some of the special district employees, such as Lealman and the Pinellas Suncoast, are also members of the Florida retirement system. Now is the time, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is not a very old retirement plan. Our objective is to avoid the day when the city's required contribution is unaffordable. Delaying a resolution to this issue will increase the possibility that these risks will have an adverse impact on both the cities and the plan. It is our recommendation the council impose Article 25 as we have proposed, which I'll get into a little more detail in that in a few minutes. There are some options that freezing the plan provides. Each individual employee has the option to take a lump sum payment when the plan is frozen. They can use their frozen benefit to offset FRS early retirement if they choose to do so, or combine a frozen benefit payment, and that upon retirement receive payments from both the frozen plan and the Florida retirement system. I believe this solution is fair and reasonable, deals with the perils of maintaining adequate funding levels without significantly hurting the firefighters' retirement situation. Now, there's some other things that were included in the agenda packet that I would like to call your attention to as well. And first of these is Exhibit D, which is on page 69 of the agenda packet, I believe. And it's an estimated lump sum payment as to what the actuary has calculated would be received by each of the 13 participants. These calculations were as of December 31 of 2013, so actually here we are 6 months later. They would all be increased to some degree as there's another 6 months has gone by since these calculations were made. But you'll note that the smallest amount is $23,740, and they go up to the highest amount of $217,784. Next, I'd like you to look at Exhibit I, which I think is on page 127 of the agenda packet. It's pretty hard to read if you're using an iPad because there's columns of figures, so I'm going to pass copies out as well, which I think will be easier to read. And this is Exhibit I, and this is an example of benefits that would be received by an existing employee. So this is a real life example. I mean, it's, you know, not someone that we made up. It's a real person. And in this case, the person was hired in 2001, and if they worked 25 years, they could retire in 2026 at age 50. Their average final compensation would be 79.5% of their average final compensation, and they would get a 3% cost of living each year thereafter. Now, this schedule projects the retirement benefit, and it uses a salary increase of 4.5% a year between now and when they would retire, their anticipated or expected normal retirement date. Now, why are we using 4.5%? Well, that's what's used by the actuary in doing the calculations in the annual valuation. So that's the same figure that the actuary uses. As I said, in this example, the person, normal retirement under the existing plan would occur in 2026, 12 years from now. Their estimated average final compensation at that time would be $101,415. Their salary for 2013 was $62,371. So if they retired at age 50, their first year benefit would be $80,625. They're 50 years old. If they live for 25 years, got retirement benefits for 25 years, they'd be age 74. It would be the year 2050. Their annual benefit would be $163,000. And after being retired for 25 years, they would have received almost $3 million from the pension fund. $2,938,939,549. Now on the next page is another example. This is the same employee, but they're going to work till they're 55 years old. So they're going to work 30 years and retire when they're 55 years old. They'd get 95% of their average final compensation when they retired, plus 3% cost of living each year thereafter. As I said, in 2013, their salary was $62,371. When they retire, their average final compensation, that's not what they made the last year, that's an average of their last 5 years, would be $126,382. So their first year, they'd be 55 years old, they'd receive a benefit of $120,221 the first year. In the third year, they're 57 years old, they're going to already receiving 100% of their average final compensation, $127,000. And if they receive benefits for 25 years till age 79, that year their annual benefit that year would be $244,000. And at that point, they would have received from the pension plan $4,383,185. So this example illustrates why I do not believe the plan is affordable in the long run. And I expect the union probably wasn't going to agree with our calculations, and we don't agree with some of their calculations. I guess no doubt if we'd agreed on everything, we wouldn't be here this evening. In the packet, we had included a letter from the actuary that was done about a year ago. It was Exhibit E, and it was prepared by Southern Actuarial Services, and dated July 16, 2013, so that was like tomorrow, that would be a year old. So we hired another actuary to update that information, and there's been one change made. In the forecast that was done by Southern Actuarial Services a year ago, they used our assumed salary increases of 5% a year. And as I said in our calculation I just went over, we used 4.5 because that's what is in the current actuarial valuation. So Gabriel Roeder Smith and Company was retained to update the estimated total benefit payments for the same 4 participants with the most seniority. And I'm not going to go over all the numbers again, but basically it's the same thing other than they used estimated salary increases of 4.5% instead of 5%. But you can see that for these 4 people, the total benefit payments range from just over $3 million to $4.6 million. Now I'd like to move to Exhibit F, which I believe is page 100 of the packet. It's not all that easy to read on an iPad, if you can get to page 100. And it's in, as I said, Exhibit G, which is the annual valuation.
G or F? I thought you had said F.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry, Mayor. F. Exhibit F. And it's a graph. It has these funny looking dots on it. And in the actual report, it's in color. It's a little easier to read, so I'm going to explain what does that mean. Active age service distribution. Well, it's common in retirement plans. A normal retirement is based on years of service and age. And you'll see there's a key on the bottom of the chart, and it's broken employees into 3 categories. Eligible to retire, maybe eligible to retire, not eligible to retire. Well, it's kind of hard to read on here, but the eligible to retire, no one. Maybe eligible to retire, no one. Not eligible to retire, all of the participants. I'm going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. I'd like to close by calling to your attention Exhibit B, page 65 of the agenda packet. This is the city's proposed Article 25 retirement benefits. As is a common practice in collective bargaining negotiations, we take an existing contract and language that is struck through is to be deleted and language that is underlined is to be added. City's proposal is to freeze the plan. All active members have the option to take a lump sum if they choose to do so. In no event will the accrued benefit, everyone becomes vested. In no event will the accrued benefit of any member be reduced as a result of this article, and employees would commence participation in the Florida retirement system. So this evening, that is the recommendation to the City Council that you approve Article 25, retirement benefits, as we have presented here and included in the packet. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, if you have any questions of the city, you can either ask Attorney Jackson or Mr. Haddock at this point before we go ahead and move on to having the union make their presentation.
And these are just questions, and we'll also have a chance to discuss once everything's
That's right.
concluded.
You'll discuss later, just questions.
Just questions. Councilmember Bieberlin?
You people that know me, I'm a pretty blunt person. I pretty much say exactly what I think. Sometimes I get in trouble doing that. But what you're going to, if you're a novice to all this, what you're going to hear tonight from both sides is a bunch of gobbledygook that hardly anybody's going to understand, because both sides are going to have
Questions? Can we keep this to questions of Bruce or the attorney?
This is part of it.
Okay.
Something he has said. It's things you really don't understand it unless you're in all this. There's so much material presented, it's almost overload. Okay, my question is, how much is the lump sum for the 13 people? What's the dollar amount?
It is total on that exhibit. Without looking at it, it's about, I want to say it was $1.5 million.
$1,324,011.
Okay, so if the program is froze today, let's say today, tomorrow there'd be 1.3 million divided up among the 13 people, right?
If they all chose to take the lump sum, yes.
Okay. Well, they're going to get it no matter if they take the lump sum or leave it in the plan, right?
That's correct.
Okay. The individual with the most seniority would get $217,000, right?
That's right.
And the individual with the less time would get $23,000, right?
You're right.
Okay. So just so we understand everything, is that if it's frozen, this $1.3 million would be divided up immediately if they choose to take it, or they could leave it in the retirement fund, and it could gain more money.
Well, if they chose to leave it in, then their benefit would be calculated based on, what it was when the plan was frozen.
And if they went in FRS, they would have a 3% cost of living every year.
No.
What did you say?
I spoke about the contribution rate, that under the current plan, employees contribute 5% of their pay to fund it, In the Florida retirement system, they would contribute only 3% of their pay.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I may ask this to the union also. The city's contribution for each fire personnel has varied between 30 and 34% a year.
Times 38.
Over the last several years, let's say 7 or 8 years, the contribution rate has ranged between 30 and 38%.
Between 30 and 30, that's what the city has given in to each one in their pension plan.
That includes premium tax money, which, as I explained, is also paid by
That was
Oldsmar taxpayers.
going to be my next question, because somebody's going to say, well, the city doesn't contribute all that because there's money coming in. So do you have any idea how much money the city actually, it's about 18 to 19% that the city does contribute? Or their contribution?
It's varied significantly. I couldn't really tell you that number off the top of my head.
But that's pretty close.
Some years, I think that would be close.
Okay. That's it.
Councilmember Roniker?
I have a question, and before I ask the question, I just want to preface something for the audience. Is normally, in a normal sense of meeting, the day of the meeting, I would meet with the city manager and discuss a lot of this, and because of the rules of this particular procedure, I'm not allowed to do that. So some of these questions I'm asking is just for a refresher for me, and I might have asked these before, but I don't recall. But originally, the firefighters were originally in FRS, and then we switched them into 175, is that correct?
Employees, not just firefighters, but all city employees, were in the Florida retirement system until January 1 of 1996.
1996, okay. That's the only question I have right now.
And at that time is when this plan was created, and that was allowed by an act of the legislature, and employees who are in FRS already working here had to stay in FRS. That was part of the enabling legislation.
Okay. And the reason we switched them to the 175 was to save the city money? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the thought at the time.
Okay. That's my only question.
Of course, the law has changed quite a bit since then.
Sure.
Councilmember McGee?
No questions at this time.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes, I do have a couple questions. I'm a little concerned and confused about the errors and misstatements that was in the special magistrate's decision. And I know that they were kind of explained in the packet, but I'm not completely sure what they are and what, exactly what errors and misstatements did they make?
I'm going to refer that to Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. There are quite a number of errors and misstatements, and we submitted the rejection of the special magistrate's recommendations, and I'll give you a summary of it, but it's explained in there in more detail because it would take me too long to really go through every single one in such detail. Yes, so, the first issue is that he said that our proposal should not be adopted and asserted that it was not, that the unions was the just resolution. And it, of course, is not, based on all of the information that was just provided to you by Mr. Haddock. In the report itself, if you'll look at the Southern Actuarial Services letter that was provided, there was some information that was provided by the union after the fact that should not have been considered. The special magistrate asserted that the city tried to reopen the hearing based on that information, and that was incorrect. It was the union that attempted to reopen the hearing. And the information that the union provided was based on some emails that had not been submitted into evidence and should not have been considered. And yet the special magistrate, saying that he would not rely upon those emails, did in fact cite those emails in his decision. Additionally, there was some information with regard to the move to FRS and saying that it would require employees to work 10 more years. That is not accurate. Under FRS, they would vest after 8 years in the plan, but they are not required to work all of those 8 years. They could choose to accept an early retirement. So that information was not accurate. Additionally, the special magistrate failed to recognize the risks and the unknowns associated with maintaining this plan. And that is the primary exception that we are taking to the recommended order of the special magistrate. Because it does, in fact, the union's proposal does not prepare the city for the unknown and what could happen in the future. And so, of course, that is the biggest exception. The other issue, the special magistrate credited the union by saying that it would cost the city more money initially with regard to the annual operating budget. And the city acknowledged that switching to FRS may initially cost the city a little bit more. But what the special magistrate failed to recognize was that the city was willing to accept that initial responsibility in order to alleviate the high risks associated with maintaining the pension plan. And so in the long run, switching to FRS should be significantly less costly to the city and to its citizens. Bruce, is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Thank you.
Oh, and one final thing. It said in the initial disclosures in the recommended order that Mr. Al Braithwaite appeared on behalf of the union, and of course he is the city's finance director. It did not appear on behalf of the union. He was called as a witness by the union, but appeared on behalf of the city.
Any other questions?
No, just like Jim said, we could ask the union questions.
And just for clarification, I just asked our city attorney about that, and we can ask either the city or the union questions after both have finished and even after the 5-minute
Okay.
rebut.
Because that, yeah.
I have
Yes.
one clarification question. So Jerry brought up the lump sum payments based off seniority, but it's based off age, right? Not seniority.
It's determined by age and years of service.
Okay.
So I believe, as an example, of someone may be older with fewer years, and they're going to get a bigger piece of money.
That's what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have one more question. It doesn't matter if Mr. Haddock answers it or the attorney, but in regards to the special magistrate report on page 5, on the bottom it says both sides agree that throughout the 18 years of funding of the current pension plan, there has never been a threat to the city budget that would adversely be affected, in that the city's own evidence presented through the report of the actuary showed that the plan is currently funded to the tune of 99.89%. Are we still agreeing with that?
We agree the plan is adequately funded, yes.
And it's never been adversely affected over the 18 years?
We've maintained adequate funding over the entire life of the plan. I agree with that.
Okay.
Even in the years when the market dipped in 2007 and 2008, or is that an average?
Well, it's varied from year to year, and probably I want to say the most that was ever put in a given year was, I think it was almost $300,000, and I want to say that was about 2011. So actually, it's dropped a little bit in the last few years as far as the amount of money we've had to contribute, and that's probably related to investment earnings.
And just for clarification, that's because we are the guarantor of the fund. I mean, we have to, anything that falls up short, we have to make up the difference.
Yeah, that's right. You know where I showed the 4 sources of money? And the city is the last one, because if anything happens with those other 3, that's where it comes from.
Bruce, is this the first year we've had a disability?
Well, it occurred I believe in 2013.
Have there been any other disabilities prior to that?
No.
It's the first under this contract, I guess.
Under this retirement plan.
Yeah, under this. Any other questions?
Yeah, one more on that vein. Why does the actuarial valuations not include assumption for any additional disabilities? That doesn't seem prudent.
We'd have to ask the actuary that question. I don't know the answer to that.
Mayor, can y'all out there hear us all, or was it just me that was?
Is there a way to crank the volume up a little bit back there or no?
I know when I said something, they was all going like that way back.
Well, we always do that.
That's just you.
That to me, I know.
Anything else on either end? And I only have a couple, and I'll reserve the opportunity to ask others. You had cited this example of, an obvious employee of the City of Oldsmar and the Oldsmar firefighters. Is this a typical example? I mean, would this be applicable to anybody that was, of the same age, and worked the same amount of years? Is that applicable to just about everybody? I mean, I assume they all start, in their 20s and...
Well, they don't all start in their 20s, and the benefit, as I said, is a combination of age and years of service. So I'm not sure that this would be typical. I mean, it's a real person. It's probably, in this example, the person was 25 when they started, and that's probably near the younger of participants.
Okay. You had said, and we've asked this, and I don't know the answer, and you're probably going to tell me the actuarial would have to answer it, but I don't know if it was Ms. Jackson or yourself that indicated, we talked about the disability, and Vice Mayor Norris just asked, and I know we don't know that, but I mean, a couple of things we don't know. Can anybody tell us if we're going to have another disability over the life of this this pension plan? And I think the answer is...
I don't think there's any way to know that.
Yeah, and how much does a disability affect the pension plan, and how does it affect it, I guess?
Well, the person would, of course, receive a monthly benefit. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it probably, if you were to transfer that into like a one-time payment, I'm going to say it's $1.5 million.
Okay. And as you indicated, the things that we don't know are the future of housing values and ad valorem taxes that we get in the City of Oldsmar. We don't have a way of projecting that. And we also don't have a way of projecting the return on investment, which we've seen, as Councilmember Beaverland indicated, that we've been inundated with paperwork over the past year and a half. How long, if the plan were to stay intact the way it is, as the union has requested, how long would the City of Oldsmar and the taxpayers have this potential liability and unknown risk? What would we forecast? And when would we officially be out of the pension business and risk? I know I'm not looking for an exact number, but it's not 10 years or 20 years.
Well, I believe the employee with the least amount of service has been here 5 years. So let's assume they're going to work 20 more years and retire after 25 years. And then they would receive a benefit for the rest of their life, or it could go beyond that if they chose, if they had a joint annuitant, they chose a spouse, it could go on for as long as either one of them lived. So that would be 30, 40, 50 years, maybe?
From now?
Yes, yes.
With 40 or 50 years of uncertainty of the other factors?
Well, there's some uncertainty. It would be less certainly when there were no more active employees. They were all retirees. The risk, of course, as I see it, would be that as long as someone is a an active employee, then you're still going to have that risk of a disability. As long as the plan's around, you're going to have some investment risk, and who knows what's going to happen with premium taxes.
I have no more questions. Anybody else have any more before we?
I have a follow-up to that thought, though. Does the city carry any kind of catastrophic insurance policy on a firefighter, per se?
Well, of course, someone could be disabled on the job, which it was a job-related incident for the one disability retiree the plan has. And there's a different provision for that disability, which is also subject to workers' compensation. Someone could also become disabled off the job, and there's a different benefit for an off or unrelated to work disability.
So there is, I'm not sure if you answered my question. Does the city get compensated
No,
with the policy?
no.
So does the firefighter
The pension
get compensated?
fund pays those obligations, whatever they might be.
So
There's
whatever that
no-
percent of the pay, okay, so that always pays out regardless of a policy's in place or not?
Yeah, even though it could be a workers' comp case, that's completely separate from the pension disability.
Okay.
Jerry, anything else? Anybody else? We do have the right to ask other questions once we hear from the union.
Right, now it's time for presentation by the union, and Mr. Brantley is the union's attorney. He'll have 30 minutes to present his position, and you'll have the opportunity to ask him questions.
As I get started with my presentation, I want to actually start in the city manager's packet. So if you could pull up that packet, I believe the exhibit I'm going to look at first is the city manager's Exhibit F, which I believe was page 100 of that packet.
Do you have a remote control?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a clicker to advance if needed?
Here.
It's right here.
Jim.
Jim, it's up here.
And could you give them maybe a 5-minute warning when their time's coming up for you to do that? I think they would appreciate that.
Mayor, members of council, my name is Jim Brantley, and I'm with the law firm of Donnelly and Gross, and we represent Palm Harbor Oldsmar professional firefighters. We've represented the local in the latter stages of the negotiations that led to this impasse and then through the impasse process. The lone issue, as was discussed earlier, that you are to decide tonight is pension. Everything else, the union and the city have been able to reach tentative agreement on. The decision you reach tonight has a profound impact on the men and women that work for the Oldsmar Fire Department and their families. For that reason, it's a decision that needs to be based on realities and real numbers and real probabilities. It's important to us that this decision not be based on facts or numbers that have been manipulated or tinkered with or adjusted in such a way as to fit a particular argument or a particular agenda. And I want to start with the city manager's Exhibit F. This is, as was mentioned earlier, the pension board's their actuary completes an annual actuarial valuation report, which is full of a lot of dull and mundane information. But you'll see, and it's hard to see on this, but you'll see that the date on the cover of this, or let's go over to the why isn't it turning?
If you point it back behind you towards the room.
No, it's paging on the left, it's just not paging in the.
Is he running it from the back?
Can I get to 2 slides over, I believe? There should be a, right there. The date at the top of that says January 22nd, 2014. And then if you page back about 15 pages to a page that at the top will say Table Roman numeral 2-B. 15 pages back in that packet. Table at the top says Roman numeral 2-B at the top.
No, it's in that same exhibit, Exhibit F. Bit more. Right there. If you can see that, the table near the bottom says Schedule of Funding Progress. And there's a column, there are 3 or 4 columns, and the third column is Unfunded Actuarial Accrued Liability, unfunded AAL. And this is the unfunded liability that carries forward that the plan falls short of, that gets carried over like baggage from one year to the next. And according to this report, this plan as of October 1, 2013, had $321,761 of unfunded liability. And its funded ratio, based on the principles that are used here, which are accounting principles, which are pretty conservative, said it was 91.26% funded. And if you look at the bottom, the very bottom, it says additional information. You'll see that the discount rate is listed at 7.0%. Now, if you page over 5 more pages, you'll see a table 3-C at the top. There you go. If you look at that table at the bottom, you'll see that the assumed return, which is the discount rate, has always been 7.5%. Been that way back since 2003, 2004. Yet on the previous page on the table, it was 7.0. Now I'm going to ask you to turn, keeping that chart in mind, turn to tab 1 in the union's notebook. And this should be a little bit easier to see. Under tab 1 in the union notebook, you could bring up my PowerPoint to the opening slide, I'd appreciate it. You'll see that the opening page of this is that same report again, and this time it says revised. And if you'll page 2 pages over, you'll see the date on this one is February 28th, 2014. Why was it revised? It was revised because the first report was based on a discount rate, an assumed rate of return that was 7.0%. First off, that assumed rate of return, which is for the pension board to set, was not set by the pension board. It was requested from the city to the actuary to print the report with a changed or altered discount rate. Well, why would somebody do that? Because if we assume the plan is going to earn less money, it makes the plan look worse looking forward. But the plan had always assumed 7.5%. So the question is, as we start, and as I get into my presentation, it's a theme that has run through this, which is, why would the city manager put in your packet the actuarial valuation report that he knows is not the most current actuarial valuation report? When the pension board became aware that the assumed rate of return had been changed, they contacted the actuary and said, revise the report, put it back the way it's supposed to be, put it back at 7.5%. And when they do, if you'll look at 15 pages over in my exhibit, and there's a blue tab at the bottom to help you get there, we're back to that same table. This will start giving a hint as to why maybe this was done. Again, schedule of funding progress. Unfunded actuarial accrued liability is now $4,579. And the funded ratio is 99.86%. And you'll see the discount rate is back to 7.5%. So if we're going to make this decision based on real numbers and on realities and what we're actually dealing with, we should be dealing with consistency. And this is the last actuarial valuation report that was done for the pension plan. This is what should have been in your packet. But this paints a more favorable picture than the other. It's not going up in that video. No, it's not yet. The additional information, the discount rate at 7.5 is what it's always been. It's illustrated in this report with no change and no tinkering. So if the assumption rates were not changed, not altered, the unfunded accrued actuarial liability in this plan is only $4,579, and the plan is shown as its real, even using accounting standards funding rate, which is 99.86%. Now the actual funding rate, not applying those principles, is actually 168%, and we'll get to that more later. If we're here to make decisions based on real numbers and to tell the truth and be honest and upfront, why would we bring to you and ask you to make decisions tonight on an actuarial evaluation report that we know is not current, we know it was tinkered with, we know it's inaccurate? Please turn, if you would, to, and it doesn't need to be brought up here, but in the city manager's book to Exhibit E. And this was a letter that the city manager made reference to, written by the pension plan's actuary dated July 16th, 2013 at the request of the city. The city manager presented this letter during the special magistrate hearing, and this is the letter that purports to tell you that each one of these pensions is going to cost you $4 to $5 million. It's going to cost city revenue $4 to $5 million for each of these pensions over the life. That's what he told the special magistrate that letter said, and he repeated it again here tonight. It was that letter that the actuary, after that hearing, took great exception to, because he felt like it had been manipulated and mischaracterized. But during the hearing, I asked the city manager about that letter because there were a lot of unanswered questions about where this $18 million figure for 4 select firefighters came from. And if you'll look in the union exhibit book, tab 2, there's a page from the transcript from that hearing. And I asked the city manager, I said, you had indicated that this letter was drafted by the pension plan's actuary. Is that correct? City manager, yes. Was this letter created by the actuary at the request of the pension board? City manager said no. Who requested this letter? City manager said we did. I asked, did you, when you set the parameters for the actuary, did you ask that these 4 individuals that have been singled out by name in this letter, did you dictate that their salary be projected at 5% annual growth compounded? City manager, no. He just did that on his own, as far as I know. Turn, if you would, in the union's exhibit book, tab 3. This is a letter written by the pension plan's actuary, Mr. Carr, 5 days ago, in anticipation of this hearing, and in anticipation of his July 2013 letter being represented again to purport that the city's on the hook to the tune of $18 million for 4 of these pensions. And here's what he said at the bottom of page 1, top of page 2. The city specifically instructed me not to discount future payments for purposes of this projection and instructed me to use the same assumptions that were used to prepare the October 1, 2012 actuarial valuation of the plan, including a 5% assumed annual pay increase. Why not discount the future payments? Why insist on an assumed 5% rate of salary growth when we know that hasn't been the case? Because it tells the story the way the city manager needs it to be told to create a doom and gloom scenario to get you to react to make changes to this plan. Why not tell the truth to me when I ask him in the special magistrate hearing how the actuary calculated this? How did he get to that $18 million number? City manager said, I don't know. Just did it on his own. And he clearly did not tell Mr. Carr something he has not told you tonight, which is that these salaries that are being shown as in the last charts that you looked at towards the close of his presentation, with annual salaries at retirement of at $110,000 and $136,000.
Are you referencing this by chance?
I am.
Okay.
I believe it was Exhibit I. That's fantastic. It's fantastic because it assumes a continued rate of salary growth when this contract in this city has salary caps for positions. Paramedics are capped at 64,000, lieutenants at 74, 75. So, but if we don't tell the actuary that, and we tell the actuary, just do the assumption as if 5% pay increases go from now until the end of time. Well, that certainly helps your argument because it shows people retiring at $136,000 a year. That's fantastic. Sign me up. But it's not truthful. Tonight's debate is really a philosophical debate. It's not a financial debate. The city manager has admitted that his desire to freeze this plan and make all firefighters start over from square one in the FRS is not based on finances of either the city or the pension plan. He's admitted that the desire to get out of the pension business is really about ridding the city of any and all risk associated with this pension. So to get you to go along with this freeze and have everybody start over in FRS,
Al.
he has to convince you that there are terrible pension risks looming for the city of Oldsmar. Millions of dollars that you're going to be on the hook for, which might explain some of what we just dealt with, presenting an inaccurate actuarial valuation report for you to consider tonight, and the mischaracterization of the information provided by the pension plan's actuary. The truth is this: the union has compromised, and while the union sees no logical reason for the city to get out of the pension business, the union has agreed to allow the city out of the pension business. The union's proposal allows the city of Oldsmar to close the pension plan, which would mean all future employees would be enrolled in the FRS, and over time, the city would get out of the pension business. So really, you're left tonight to decide not whether the city is to get out of the pension business. We've already agreed to that. Even though our original position was there's no reason for the city to get out of the pension business, we've agreed to that. What you're really asked to decide tonight is how quickly the city is going to get out of the pension business. Because under the city manager's plan, you get out of the pension business overnight. You pretend 14 years didn't happen, 18 years didn't happen. And you put everybody in FRS and say, start over from square one. As if you get, I don't care if you've been here 14 years, in the eyes of the FRS, you're a brand new employee. Our proposal is to do things the way it was done in 1996 when this city manager came to this city council and said, the FRS is awful, it's costing us too much money, we've got to get out on our own, we can do this cheaper. And convinced you and the union that we needed to pull out of the FRS and start this Chapter 175 that now you're being told has excess benefits and costs you too much money and has untold risks. Nothing that was different than in 1996. There's not one thing that the city manager talked about that's brand new. All of that were all knowns when the city took this on. And now midstream of careers, let's change gears again. We've had a philosophical change of heart.
Can I just, for clarification, it wasn't this city council?
I understand. I understand.
With the exception of one. For the record.
Exception of one. Exception of one.
The Oldsmar firefighters ask that you support the union's position, which was supported by the special magistrate and the special magistrate's recommendations for the following reasons. First is respect for the impasse process. We negotiated for months. We worked out the bulk of the items. And then according to statute, when we were at loggerheads on issues and one side declared impasse, we jointly, the city and the union jointly selected a special magistrate we agreed on would come here and conduct a hearing. Special Magistrate John McAllister came here, been doing this for a lot of years, came here and spent a full day in this room, listened to hours of testimony, pages of exhibits, and then entertained continued arguments that I and counsel for the city made in post-hearing briefs detailing and summarizing our arguments. And then Special Magistrate McAllister issued what we believe is an unbiased recommendation. So to dismiss that and throw it out the window, which the statute allows, renders that whole process we went through, the whole day we spent here, and all the time and effort and expense that went into that process, renders it moot if we're going to ignore it. And as we discuss the rest of this, I guess what I'm asking each of you to ask yourselves is this. If the shoe were on the other foot, if the special magistrate had sided and made a recommendation in favor of the city manager's position, and the union had objected or rejected that recommendation and prompted this hearing, would you be telling us tonight that, hey, the process played out, the special magistrate heard all the evidence, didn't go your way? And if so, what I'm asking you is to make what's good for the goose good for the gander. Reason 2. This pension plan is healthy, well-funded, and has been well-managed. According to the latest actuarial valuation, the current pension plan is 99.8% funded, and that's using the very conservative accounting methods that are applied to that particular chart. In another part of that actuarial report where it looks at true dollars, which is true dollars on hand versus true dollars of liability as of today, your plan is 168% funded. Meaning for every dollar of liability, you have $1.68 on hand to cover it. Now, that's not a bad thing, because in those down years that the city manager is scaring you with, the doom and gloom years, it's that 68-cent buffer that's there to absorb those down years. That's why pension plans do that. That's why the funding methods remain consistent. This is one of the better funded pension plans in the state of Florida. There are pension plans in the state of Florida that need to be frozen or terminated or closed because they've been subjected to years of underfunding or mismanagement or people asleep at the wheel. That's not the case with this plan. This plan is well managed, well funded. And your pension costs, and I'll get to it in a minute, are not 38%. Because every time the city manager is asked that question, he does not mention to you that once you take out the premium tax money that this city receives every year, your pension costs right now are about 14.5%. That's the reality. That's real. Reason 3, closing the pension plan is a compromise position offered by the union. The firefighters' initial position was that based on the financial health of this plan, there was no reason to do anything with it. In fact, it was probably the last municipal pension plan that needed to be touched. It's an example of how other municipal pension plans should have been managed. But in an effort to reach an agreement, the union finally said, okay, we don't think there's a reason to get out, but if you want out of the pension business, we'll let you out of the pension business, but let's do it the same way we did it in 1996, which is everybody that's in the plan now, we're not going to change gears in the middle of the game, not going to change the rules. You finish your career in this plan, and everybody new will come here knowing I'm in the FRS. That's my deal. I got to work 30 years. What we're doing now is at the 14-year mark saying, you get no credit for that. Enter the FRS, and now to get a normal retirement, non-penalty, you have to either put in another 30 years or you have to work till age 60. One of the two, as otherwise you're taking a penalty. Reason 4, the union's proposal, which was supported by the special magistrate, gets the city of Oldsmar out of the pension business. Throughout negotiations, the theme we heard from the city manager was the city has changed its mind. City wants out of the pension business. No, we no longer can tolerate the risk. Union said, fine, we'll get you out of the pension business. We'll close it. Anybody hired in the future goes into FRS, and over time, you're out. You just heard in 20 years, your active people are out. You've got somebody with 5 years on, they retire at 25. So in terms of your disability risk, that ends in 20 years. over time, as the last payments are made, you're out of the pension business. The unions agreed to this. So the issue, again, is not whether you're going to get out of the pension business or not. We have agreed with that. That's a compromise position by this bargaining unit. The issue now is, are we going to do it overnight in such a way as to lower benefits and make people work longer? Or are we going to do it the way it was done in 1996? Reason 5, the city manager's plan unnecessarily reduces pension benefits for existing firefighters. And it does this 2 ways. Number 1, by freezing the plan, their benefits that they've earned in this plan are not calculated at the end of their career, which is the way they would be now. They're calculated on today's salaries. So this city all along has been funding it based on what their salaries were projected to be at the end of their careers. Well, you're going to get a discount. So that the value of those benefits up to 14 years, the longest one here, they're going to earn less for that. So whatever they do with FRS, the benefit they have coming out of the city of Oldsmar is a fraction of what it would have been had they been able to finish their career here. The other misnomer is that they will have to work longer. There's not one firefighter in the existing plan that will not take a reduction in pension benefits on the city manager's proposal. The other fact, every person, every existing firefighter in this bargaining unit in this city will have to work longer, some as many as 9 to 10 years longer, to get a normal retirement, because they're not getting any credit in the FRS for the years they have now. In the FRS's eyes, the day they start, they're brand new. In fact, they're not even vested. They have to put in 8 years with the FRS, 8 more years. Even if they've been here 14, they're not going to be vested for another 8 years in the FRS. Reason 6, the city manager's plan will increase the city's pension costs in the short term. This is not a maybe, this is an absolute. It will cost about $34,000 to $38,000 more annually in the short term. Yes? Okay. In the long term, the exact future costs are unknown. And the reason they're unknown is because we don't know what the investment returns will be, and we don't know what the level of premium tax money will be. Reason 7, fairness and consistency. In 1996, when this city manager asked city council to leave the FRS because it was too expensive and to establish this plan and put firefighters in it and general employees in their own plan, all existing employees, including the city manager, were permitted to finish their careers in their existing pension plan without taking a hit. Local 2980 respectfully requests that the city council resolve this pension issue in accordance with the union's proposal to close the plan rather than freeze it, as was recommended by the special magistrate. And I thank you very much.
Yeah, I got some questions for
Mr. Brentley.
You know, I said in the beginning that there's a lot of gobbledygook on both sides, and I understand that. I don't understand the gobbledygook, but I understand making gobbledygook. There's probably some times when everybody's disingenuous on both sides. I'm gonna bring up, you said that Bruce come to this council, and then Jim, the mayor, kind of correct you, and this nonchalant, you said, oh, I know. What'd you say it for, if you already knew it? Okay. You said that the city manager never answered the question about the 30 to 36% that the city was putting into the retirement. I asked that question of him, and he did answer it. He answered my question that it was, but now he was a little higher than you. He said 17 to 8, but he answered that question. That's being just disingenuous. Is the union's proposal Article 25?
It is.
You only told half of it. You didn't tell the other half of it. Why didn't you tell all of it? How about section 4? Explain that to me.
Section 4, is that the share plan?
Yeah, you're telling, all we're voting on is to start and restart. You didn't say a word about section 4. You're asking us to vote on something we have absolutely no idea what can happen.
Well,
you don't know any idea what can happen. This council cannot know what will happen with section 4.
If you'd like me to answer the question, you have approximately $600,000 in accumulated premium tax revenues that are regulated by the state. They can't be spent willy-nilly. They're regulated what can be done with them, and they are to go to extra benefits. Now, through this negotiation process, we offered several times to be as creative as we could, working with the current change and viewpoint of those premium tax monies in the state to capture them before the legislature boogered the whole mess up. And we offered to do a stop restart that would have turned every bit of that $600,000 over to the city to offset its pension costs, because doing the stop restart raises your frozen level, and you're nowhere near that frozen level. So that would flow almost all future premium tax revenues to the city to offset its pension cost, and that proposal was rejected by the city. Okay. We offered that. Now, absent that, those monies have to flow to a share plan, so they have to be disposed of in accordance with state law, especially with a plan that's as well funded as this one.
That has to be debated on, though.
No, sir. It has to be spent in a share plan. It has to be spent in accordance with statute.
Who determines the share plan?
It's negotiated.
What did I just say? You have to negotiate it.
The details of it, not the creation of it. Those monies have been held all along and not spent.
You're asking us to vote on something we have to negotiate. Anyway, okay, Lauren. There was something that was presented to the, and by the way, a magistrate, and I use this example. The magistrate also said, why should the city be punished because they operate successfully? Now, I read that in the minutes. Why should the city be punished if they operate their money successfully? Now, I don't know what it is.
I haven't asked that the city be punished in any way.
No, I know you didn't. The magistrate said, why should the city be punished? No, you did not. I didn't indicate you did. Now, somebody's eyeballs are going to go crossed here, and I don't mean for them to go. And I'd like to have you to kind of bear with me. I was supposed to go in the hospital tonight for MRIs. I'm in a lot of pain. I can't turn my head, and sometimes I stutter because I stutter. That's part of my life. I stutter. So everybody has to accept that. And I mangle the English language. Accept that. And hush. It was brought to the city's attention, probably not as a formal proposal, but I know it was a proposal that was suggested that we have a negotiation of 7 in and 7 out. Did you know that?
We had talked about a proposal that would have reduced benefits based on people hired before and after a start date.
And there'd be some people put in, 7 would put in FRS and 7 would stay.
They wouldn't have to be. The FRS isn't going to, under that proposal, it would have to be up to the employee, but the idea would be to make the plan so unattractive for the group that they would join FRS.
But that was a proposal.
Yes.
Or it was suggested. Okay. And then all of a sudden it was taken off the table. Did they ever vote on it?
No, there were a lot of things that were in that package that were not agreed on. The package as a whole was never agreed upon. That's correct.
But it was brought before the city.
It was among the many things that were discussed, absolutely.
That the union representative was willing to put 7 in FRS.
No, sir, again, that's not,
it was presented to the city. Now,
no, sir, that's incorrect. We would not be putting anybody in the FRS. They would have been, under that plan, been given a choice, and the idea would be to structure the plan so it's unattractive for them to stay.
Okay, I agree. There would have been a choice. Mayor, I think that's my question.
You'll have another chance. sure you'll take it.
And to answer your question and be clear, that proposal that you're speaking of was rejected by the city manager.
But it wasn't rejected by the council.
I can't negotiate with you, sir. We're not, that the law prohibits it.
I know you can't. I know you
I
can't.
can only give you proposals through that gentleman.
Totally agree. And let me say that Bruce can defend himself. I'm not going to defend Bruce because whatever. See, I can't ask you a lot of questions about what he has said and done because I don't know the background of that. Now it's you say one thing and he says another thing, and I'll bet you that Bruce is not right in everything, and neither are you. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Councilmember Roniger.
I have a question, Mr. Brantley. Earlier you stated, I want to just clarify this for my thoughts, but it takes 8 years to be vested in the FRS for any employee going to FRS, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, not for you, Mr. Brantley, but I guess this is for the mayor. We are going to allow staff to rebuttal the use of 7% compared to 7.5%, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's part of the process tonight.
Okay.
Yep. Anything else?
That's it.
Vice Mayor?
Jim asked one of my questions, but I just want a little clarification on the 99%, 99.86 versus the 168% funded. I'm a little confused on that. Because we're currently at 99. Where does this 168 come into play?
I was as well. And I had to have the actuary explain it to me, and I'll try to decipher it the best I can. The 99 page is done under very strict accounting rules that make the plan account for things and calculate in a way that's unrealistic to the plan. And what his statement was is that most actuaries believe that in the pension business, that rule that makes them do that should be withdrawn. But nonetheless, it's not, so they have to print it that way. So that's really the most conservative view, but it's not a real world view of where your dollars are versus your liabilities. So, excuse me, so on the next page, I think it's the very next page in that report, the actuaries print another page that then says, okay, what are your real dollars versus your real dollar.
As of now.
As of now, as of that date.
That date.
As of that date. The value of the benefits that have been earned in dollars versus the dollars you have on hand to cover them. And that's where the 168% came from. And he indicated that that's, again, the 99.86% is one of the better of the 100 funds he serves. The 168 is also extremely healthy, and he explained that 68% is a buffer for things like disability, downturn, poor investment years, and those types of things, so that you don't get hit.
Okay. My other question is regarding the premium tax money. That is still in negotiation in the legislature with Senate Bill 246, correct?
There have been a million versions floated. None have made it out in the last 2 or 3 sessions to really. Now we're dealing with what's called the Naples letter, where we have a new interpretation from the rule makers from the Department of Management Services with regard to what can and can't be done with those premium tax dollars. And as they stand right now, a plan, even in that bill, I believe, a plan as well funded as this one, because you're not carrying a huge unfunded liability that needs to be addressed, those monies would have to flow to extra benefits, unless we do a stop restart, and then through that process, we raise the frozen amount and we're allowed to artificially flow those to the city. And we had offered that during negotiations to do that mechanism while that's still allowed. Now, what the legislature is going to do is address these plans that are poorly funded and say, listen, if you're holding on to premium tax money, you can't be establishing a share plan if your plan's only 40% funded. You have to release those funds to offset the city's costs to bring the funded ratio up.
Okay, because I spoke with Carl, a friend of mine, Carl Zimmerman, Representative Zimmerman, and he is pretty sure that it's going to make it in this next legislative session. But I'm a little confused as to whether or not it is a benefit to the city with whatever's going through the legislature right now, because the Senate passed it unanimously, and it got stopped in the House because they wanted to attach a bunch of things to it. But from the city manager, I got the impression that that's not going to help us, but from Carl Zimmerman, I got the impression that that was going to help us.
I don't think it is.
They know that it's hard to, that pensions are the #1 issue in the state when it comes to cities. They know that, and they're trying to they're trying to give us some relief in the cities. So what I got from him in the last couple of days talking to him was that relief, he did feel that relief was going to come.
Well,
some relief,
right.
Just with the
and
premium tax money.
The version I saw, and I don't know if it was the latest version because I'm not in Tallahassee doing that the way I once was, but it was my understanding that it was going to be those cities that had plans, I believe it was under 80% funded.
Underfunded.
Underfunded
right.
were definitely going to get all those funds. Those that are 100% funded or near or over 90 or some percentage, there was a new drop dead date, and then after that, everything had to flow to the share plan, and those were done on a prorated basis based on the funding percentage of the plan. So
and
in that case,
new benefits.
Right, and they would have to go to extra benefits. But again, I think as we sit today, we had offered, because I think it would still be approved, to do a stop restart, raise the frozen amount so that really all future premium tax monies would be under that, and you would capture all those.
Right.
And then through a stop restart, we could have flowed all the accumulated 600 and some odd thousand to the city, and that offer was made during negotiations.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember McGee?
No questions.
I have a couple of questions. He had to step out and take some medicine for his neck. I know we talk about numbers, and I know whether you agree or disagree with the city manager's numbers, we talk percentages, but I don't really, it's hard for us with all these numbers and actuaries and the things that, the numbers that are spewing all over, and, you know, what does the 7 versus 7.5%, what does the capping of salary versus not capping of salary, you know, I mean, all I have, you know, this tells me, you know, $4 million and $2 million. It would be nice to know, you know, and let me just finish. In this scenario, it says this particular person at age 55 in the $4 million scenario is going to get a benefit amount of $120,000. And you're saying, and I don't know which one, 64,000 and 75,000. I assume they would still have the 3% increase every year, but it would be at that capped rate. How does that, what does that look like in this?
That one's an easy one.
Okay.
Currently, the most a lieutenant can make in base wage is $74,000. That shows somebody retiring, I'm assuming we don't know who it is, but it's a lieutenant, okay? At $136,000, that's their departing salary. And you know how we got that? We told the actuary, walk that thing out with a 5% pay raise and don't quit till they're dead. Don't quit till they leave. Without ever telling them, well, there is a stopping point because their salary stops growing because we have maximums. If you tell the actuary that, the actuary could have included that in the report and done the numbers based on what somebody is more realistically going to retire at, which is they'd hit the cap and their last few years would be at the cap. But if I want to make the number big, I say walk that thing out. I mean, you could have heard the people gasp when somebody said, "Oh, we're retiring with $136,000." The public will fall out of their chairs.
And I guess my question is, do you have numbers from your side that would tell us what your version
The
of
actuarial valuation report spells out that kind of thing. But again, this was done by an outside actuary that I don't know. I can't tell you what is in the cake because I didn't cook it. I have no idea what went into it. I don't know how it was calculated. The 7.5% rate of return, if we assume the plan is going to earn less money, right? If we assume it's going to do poorly, that means the city that inflates the amount, the city looking forward is anticipated to be on the hook for. So if we lower the assumption rate from 7.5 to 7, as you saw, it made your unfunded liability go from $4,500 to $300 and something, which, quite frankly, there are a lot of pension plans in this state that would kill to have an unfunded liability of only $300,000. But it made this one, which is a very healthy plan, look worse than it was. It made it show that it was only 91% funded when it's really 99.86% funded. My point was there was no reason to do that. The assumed rate of return has always been 7.5%. There was no reason to lower it, A, and B, if it was going to be lowered, that's an action for the pension board to take, not for the city to do. And then the third and most important question is, knowing that, why would that report be the one that's put in your exhibits for you to consider tonight in making this decision, rather than the real one? That's my issue.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Anybody else before we move on? We still have the opportunity to ask both parties questions. Any other? Councilmember Beaverland? Okay.
Okay, now it's time for rebuttal by the City of Oldsmar, and so I'm not sure if Ms. Jackson or Mr. Haddock is going to be doing that. Okay.
I'm ready.
You have 5 minutes.
I clearly stated early on in the presentation that the rate of return was 7.5%. I mentioned that more than once. In fact, it was when I gave that example of if you lost 7.5%, you'd be 15% behind. So, you know, I know it's 7.5%. I agree with Mr. Brantley. It's always been 7.5%, and I stated that early on in my presentation. Also, the city's position of freezing the plan is a compromise. We started out proposing to terminate this plan. And of course, the union didn't agree with that. As Mr. Brantley said, their original position was let's just leave everything the way it is. So we have moved. They moved from leave everything the way it is to close. We moved from terminating to freezing. So we put forth a compromise also. I would disagree with Mr. Brantley's statement about a share plan. He seemed to indicate it was required. There is no requirement to establish a share plan. No requirement at all. That money can only be used for firefighters' pensions, but there's no requirement to establish a share plan. Now, I have some other things that I'm going to give you a written version of my rebuttal, and I'm not sure I could cover it all in 5 minutes, but I'm going to hit it as quickly as I can. Just some other notes that I think are important to address some issues. Now, you've heard about working additional 10 years. And that example I gave you, Exhibit I, of that person, you know, could be one. But there's not a requirement for that. Employees are vested in FRS in 8 years. So someone could choose to take an early retirement for a reduced benefit. Of these 13 participants, under the current plan, normal retirement age is 55, and they would be 55 as their normal retirement. That's over half of the participants. So if you follow that line of thought, to get a normal retirement under FRS, work to age 60, they'd work 5 more years. There's only 2 people that fall under that scenario of 10 years, and it's not mandatory. In this plan, I think I stated this earlier, there's no employee close to retirement. There's nobody in this plan with 20 years of service that's planning to retire in 5 years. The person with the most seniority has a normal retirement date of November 2024. That's more than 10 years away. They're going to become fully vested in FRS in 8 years. We heard, this isn't the deal I signed up for. In 2002 and 2005, changes proposed by the union were made to the pension plan. As recently as 2012, changes were implemented that were negotiated as part of the current contract. The union knows that pension benefits are a mandatory subject of collective bargaining. They're subject to change every 3 years or with any new contract. The union seems to agree only to changes they propose. Saying this isn't the deal I signed on for is like wanting to have your cake and eat it too. We've already talked about the factual errors in the special magistrate's report. We've said all along the plan is adequately funded. That doesn't mean it's going to be in the future. I put some examples in here about plans that were 100% funded in 2008 and is now 41% funded. City of Hollywood firefighters plan. How about closer to home, City of Largo? In 2007, it was 88% funded. In 2011, it dropped to 59.4%. If we wait until we're having financial difficulties, we've waited too long. There's 2 other very major problems significant with the union proposal. Mr. Beaverland mentioned some of it. Their Section 3, implement a stop restart. Historically, a stop restart is implemented as a way to increase the amount of insurance premium tax that can be utilized by the existing plan. All the insurance premium tax that we receive is currently being used to fund the plan. Implementing a stop restart is pointless. There's Section 4, establish a share plan. A share plan is a supplemental pension plan on top of the existing pension plan. Given the generous benefits of this plan, it would defy logic to create an additional supplemental pension plan. Most importantly, the financial implications of these 2 proposals, either singularly or in combination, is unknown. Nobody knows the financial implication of either one of those things. There's been some discussion about pay, and what about these projected salary increases? Well, from 2007 to 2013, the average annual salary increased from $40,244 to $52,241. That's an increase of $2,000 a year over the 6 years, even during the Great Recession.
Okay, Mr. Haddock, your time is up. Okay. So the 5 minutes has been completed. It's now time for Mr. Brantley. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I'm going to ask you to turn to tab 3 in the union's exhibit book. Despite the city manager's best efforts to convince you otherwise here tonight, there is no crisis with the Oldsmar firefighters pension plan. There's no current crisis, certainly, and there's no crisis looming on the horizon either. The plan's actuary, Mr. Carr, this is a letter dated July 10th, 2014, 5 days ago, in which Mr. Carr indicates on page 2 of the letter that among the other 100 plans he serves as an actuary for, this plan, the Oldsmar Firefighters Pension Plan, is among the best funded he deals with as an actuary. With regard to the doom and gloom examples you were just given, I didn't have to dig very far to learn that the Largo plan dropped in funding percentage because they, as a city, decided to offer an early out. And many cities have gotten themselves in trouble doing just that by trading an early out to get high payroll employees who are near retirement out of the city and off the payroll. So they trade payroll expense for pension costs. They do it consciously knowing it's going to drop their funded percentage. They know their pension costs are going to go up, but they trade it off because the employees coming in come in at a far lower salary than those that escaped at the top end. It's been a frequent tool that pension plans have used and cities have used, and quite frankly, it scares me to death because I've seen plenty of them not recoup the benefits on the payroll side that they thought they were going to, and they end up with a long-standing unfunded liability. That's what happened in Largo. As we saw earlier, this plan's current assets represent 168% of its current liability, so the plan is overfunded by 68%. Despite the attempts by the city manager to convince you otherwise, the city is not on the hook for $4 to $5 million in pension payment for every firefighter in the city of Oldsmar. Suggestion is simply not true. Here's what Mr. Carr, the plan's actuary, says. On page 2, he explains that the truth is the city is on the hook for roughly $325,000 in total pension payments to each individual that would come from the city into the pockets of these employees over the life of their pension, over the life of their retirement. And a portion of that amount would be covered by state premium tax revenues. So the real dollar amount that of the amounts they will receive that will come from the city coffers versus investment returns, employee contributions, and or premium tax money is $325,000. Regarding risks associated with possible future firefighter disability pensions, I would say first, let's hope there's not any more. But first off, we had one. This plan of only 13 members had a disability, and it's still overfunded by 68%. 2 years later, there's been no crisis. On page 3 of the letter, Mr. Carr explains that in most cases, a disability pension costs less and provides less in benefits than a normal retirement. And he explains that disability pensions are accounted for when the actuary sets the contribution rates, and they are covered in plans like this with the buffer that's built up over time. They are actuarially anticipated. The decision tonight must be made on facts. The city manager has indicated that your pension costs are 38%, 39% when offset by the amount that you receive in premium tax monies, which he just told you are already going to offset your pension costs. The real number is about 14%. Your starting point of FRS is 19.07 as you enter it. When you left it in 1996, it was 27.5%. Chapter 447, Florida statutes, as you heard earlier, says that you are to make a decision tonight that's in the best interest of the city, best interest of the residents, and best interest of the employees who are impacted by this. You are free to resolve this issue in any manner you see fit. You can agree with the union's proposal, which was supported by the special magistrate, to close the plan. You can side with the city manager and agree to freeze the plan and force everybody to start over in FRS. But you're also free to resolve this pension issue in any other way that you think is prudent and in the best interest of all parties involved, including to leave this plan open and unchanged and status quo, and allow it to continue as a well-funded plan. We appreciate your time and attention, and I thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, now we have 30 minutes of comments from the public. If anyone from the public wants to speak, you have 3 minutes.
Do we want to ask questions of these two first before we move to
Might
that?
as well, you could do it whatever,
I would
either
rather
way.
do that while it's fresh, and then, if that's okay, so we can hear all that, and the people that are going to speak to it can
Okay.
hear those questions as well.
All right, last minute.
Councilmember Eberlin, questions, follow-up questions to either party?
Yeah, I
Questions, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question, with no comments, Mayor, just a question. Mayor gets upset with me because my questions always are preceded by a comment this long. Does anyone, either side, can tell me why the legislature in Tallahassee moved the FRS's retirement from 55 to 60? Can anyone tell me that?
Why did they do that?
Yes. There has to be a reason why they did it. I'd like to know what the reason is. And is there a possibility they can move it back? You know, if people have followed me for the last 45 years, they would know that I've said 1 billion times that government is here to be a hindrance. And it's always been, government is good sometimes. But why did Tallahassee do that? There has to be a reason. I'd like to know what that reason is.
I can't begin to imagine why somebody would think it'd be a good idea to have a law enforcement officer, paramedic, or firefighter working at 60 years old. Can't imagine.
Does this have an answer?
Mr. Jackson, do you have, I don't know if you have any thought?
Somebody answer me if you can.
Okay. I can't have a bunch of talk from the crowd, please.
To save money? Oh, if you're going to answer me, you got to get up there. To save money?
Money for the state, right. Makes money for the state.
Can you elaborate that to me a little bit? I know you can't think for those guys up there, and I wouldn't even, I'd hate to have somebody think for them up there, but to save money?
It generates more money for them, sure. To increase the age, yes, that's why they do it.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Roniker?
I don't have any questions right now.
Vice Mayor Norris?
None on the rebuttal, no.
Councilmember McGee?
I had 2 questions. Maybe Aaron can answer them. One, in regards to the salary caps, if you guys had any response to why the salary caps weren't included in the actuary evaluation, and also in regards to the 7 and the 7.5%, wasn't there a year that we were negative? Because it's an assumption, it's not a reality. I mean, we're assuming, we hope that we get 7.5 every year, but it could certainly be negative, or it could be more. I think one year it was 12%. But I'm pretty sure I thought there was a year that the return was negative.
The actual number.
I can respond to that.
Okay.
And if you want to use the union's packet, that's fine. You included the actuarial valuation. I don't recall. Was that tab 2?
It's on that tab, table 3C, about halfway back. 5 or 6 pages behind the little blue tab in my book under tab 1. You had a negative year in the book.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, the bottom of that page, page Roman numeral 3-3, it's table 3C, annual investment returns, and they have the market value return and the actuarial value return for a 10-year history. And if you look at the actuarial value return, the best year was 11 and 12 at 22.09%, and the worst year was 07-08, and there was a loss of 16.96%. So I think that was part of your question. The other about the salary is, let's still use that exhibit there that we're working on. And if you would turn to table 4C, active participant data. And if you look at that last column, the average actual salary increase, and you've got 9 years of data here. And over those 9 years, the average annual increase is 6.28%. So the actuary using 4.5 is not unreasonable, but if he used something higher, and in fact, until last year, he was using a higher percentage. You can see what it was expected, and it's been running, 5 and 6 using his numbers. But in this current valuation report, as Mr. Brantley, included in his packet, that one of the changes was the salary assumption at 4.5%. So the actuary is, they do projections. Pension's a long-term deal, 20, 30, 40 years. And if you still using the same report, go to table 5A. Summary of actual methods and assumptions. You'll see, let's be clear, that number 3, the interest rate is 7.5%. Number 4, salary increases. Planned compensation is generally assumed to increase at the rate of 4.5% per annum unless actual planned compensation is known for a prior plan year. And then number 5, decrements. The third one, disability, none is assumed. So these are the methods and assumptions used by the actuary. It's not Bruce Haddock's assumptions.
Can I follow up on that, please?
Yeah.
In regards to that, on the 4.5% increase, they're talking about a cap. So there's no taking into account
Cap only
of the cap.
exists for the current contract. And in fact, it changes, oftentimes it changes every year. So, the numbers we presented are projected out 10, 15, 20 years. And if you look at actual history, that 4.5% is low. The actual increased
No, I
salary
understand that, but
over the past 9 years has been 6.28%.
Let's just say there's a position and it maxes out at $50,000 a year. Once they hit that $50,000 a year, they're not getting another 4.5% increase, correct? They're capped out. So for the next 20, 30 years.
There's a maximum on each pay grade.
Right. So once they reach that maximum, according to the actuarial study, it's still increasing 4.5%.
Because the actuary, a lot of his work is based on history. He's looking at what's actually happened over the past 9 years. It's been 6.28%. He's saying, well, I don't think that's going to go on into the future, so I'm going to drop it to 4.5.
To answer your question.
1 second, Mr. Brantley. The question was not asked of you. I'm sorry. So, yeah, do you have any other questions of Mr. Haddock? Okay. All right, thank you. You don't have the opportunity to rebut. This is question only time. Do you have any other questions?
That was it.
Okay.
And I guess my question is, it is kind of confusing to me, and I understand what the city manager is saying about that the actual number, it says use 4.5 unless you have data that indicates otherwise, and I forget which table it was, but it was in the 6%. And I guess my question then is of Mr. Brantley, is the 64 and 75, I mean, I know we're saying that, but it sounds to me that those aren't locked in and that they're going to be there forever. And in fact, through contract negotiations, those salary caps have been raised.
First off, you just heard this is a very young department. A lot of people, nobody's close to retirement yet. So there aren't many employees yet capped out. What we were talking about is an illustration specifically created as an exhibit here, marching these employees out to the end of their careers, showing you that their pay was going to continue to increase 5% a year without telling you that along the way, each one of them is going to hit that cap in whatever pay classification they're in, and they're not going to go higher. They're not going to get to 135,000. And if you'll look on the table that we were just talking about, the evidence that this is becoming an older department with more people that are hitting that cap is evidenced on the chart that the city manager just directed you to, table 4C. You'll see the average actual salary increase for 2011 was 2.71%. That's across the whole bargaining unit, all the members of the pension. The next year is 1.63%, and the next year 1.89%. Earlier years, it probably did average higher because people were moving through the plan. They weren't getting to the cap yet. As people get to the end of the salary scale in their classification of paramedic or firefighter paramedic or lieutenant, they reach the cap. Their pay then does not go up unless the cap is negotiated to increase. So to assume that those caps are going to increase every year 5% or even 4.5%, and then come here and say that a pension based on that is going to provide somebody this fantastical $200,000 a year pension, and it's going to cost you out of general fund coffers $4.5 million over their life, is just simply fantasy. It's made up.
Do you not see the cap increasing over?
I think it will. It will have to over time because you'll get people bunched up, and to be competitive, it may have to be. But I can tell you, negotiating contracts all over the state, one of the toughest things in the world to do is raise a top out. Cities are far more cooperative with raising the starting pay than they ever are raising the top out, which creates compression issues that we have to deal with 10 or 15 years later.
And to that point then, to our city manager, I don't have the history that you do, or even Councilmember Beaverland. Can you address the cap issue and the history of it and how often it is raised through contract negotiations? And is it?
Historically, it's increased every year, not every year out of the last 15, but certainly, I don't know, maybe it has been every year out of the last 15. At least 12 out of the last 15.
And what's the cause? And that's an agreed upon contract negotiation.
Pay ranges are part of the pay article. They're determined during the collective bargaining process, during negotiations. I don't recall a single contract that didn't provide some kind of increase in the pay ranges.
And is it to the 4.5% that the projections are based on? I mean, would that fall in line with the cap increases? I know it's probably, I don't know that you can answer that, but.
Well, if you go back and look at that chart, they've been all over the place.
Yeah.
One year they were as high as 12. One year they were actually dropped. I'm talking about average.
Average salary, but that's not relative to the cap actual number. I'm curious what the cap actually goes up when it has gone up.
Oh, sometimes it's 1.5%. Sometimes it's been 3%. Mr. Braithwaite might be able to tell us how many people are currently at the maximum. I don't know if he can or not.
Of this unit.
Up here.
Just for clarification, this is the answer to the question I heard when I was in the restroom that Jim asked about the salary caps out. Does the 4.5 still tack on? Is that what I didn't want to miss?
And then this is a follow-up to the cap?
Follow-up to the, okay, I didn't want to miss it.
I don't think there are any in this unit that are at the cap. There are several from the more experienced members that are still in the FRS.
Okay.
Well, I have some confusion then. So we continue to raise the cap even though nobody's at the cap?
Yes, that's right. I don't see that as being relative to the actuarial assumptions, and I don't think the actuary does either. You know, a cap is something that's in a contract. At the most, it's for 3 years, but even in the majority of contracts, each year it's bumped up. So if you do happen to reach the cap in 2014, there's going to be a new cap in 2015, so you're going to get a pay raise probably.
And I guess to that, and again, I'm trying to get back to these numbers that we're looking at and trying to understand all of this gobbledygook, as he says. But I mean, in order for this person, this fictional person at year 5 at the $4 million cost to have $137,000 in pay, the cap would have to follow along with that. Is that correct? I mean, the cap would have to allow for that to happen.
Sure.
Okay.
You ready to move on?
Yeah, we're ready to move on.
Okay, so now it's time for the public. Anybody that wants to speak tonight can speak. You have 3 minutes to speak. We'd like to try to limit this to 30 minutes total. So, Mr. Mayor, you want to call on?
I don't have a particular order or agenda. I'd like to hear from residents, taxpayers. I'd like to hear from the firefighters. But yeah, go ahead. Name and address for the record and 3 minutes or less.
My name is Les Johnson. I live at 313 Bass Court. I'd like to make a comment on the pension fund changes for firefighters. It's my understanding that the city wants to pay out the individual pension money to each of them and then have them start all over again the years of service to count for retirement. Common sense tells you that firefighting is a young person's job, and to make them work longer is a disservice to them and to the citizens of the community. I would rather have a younger person fighting a fire or responding to a rescue call as to a 50 or 60-year-old. We know younger people have a lot more stamina and energy than us older people. By making the current firefighters extend their working years, that is what will happen. I think the city should roll over the time already spent in the service and money and have it accumulated in the current pension plan that they should grandfather in. You should not have the right to change plans every few years. When someone new is hired, explain to them the current plan, and then it's their decision if they want to keep the position or not. And can I ask a question?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We cannot have this after every person speaks. We know your stance on the issue, and we appreciate that, but we can't have this after every single person gets up and speaks. Please. Next. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Rick Mancher, 101 Arlington Avenue West. I'm here in support of the firefighters. Of course, I'm a retired firefighter from Pinellas Park. I've lived in the city for 13 years now, but I was also a member of a 175 plan in Pinellas Park, which has a well-funded, I'm sure you've probably dealt with them, excellent thing. We've had a pension plan 175 since the late 60s, 70s, hundreds of retirees. The city's doing fine. I'd just like to say that it's a good plan. It's always been well-funded, and I know that I've contributed 7% my whole career, 28 years, into my pension. And in lean times, we had to boost that up. There are guys right now in there pay 12% towards their pension. So we always work with the city to better the pension, and if we need to help out, we helped out. We also, I'd like to get the kind of raises that I saw projected on that thing. I'd be living in Mobley Bay, not down on a park in Arlington. But I can assure you that my pension isn't anything near that. And I did 28 years in the service. And
what municipality was that again that you said?
Pinellas Park.
Pinellas Park, okay.
Yeah, my raises also, I went the last 6 years of my career without a single raise. I can't remember getting 5% ever on a 3-year deal. I never remember getting that. So to project that kind of number into the future and compound it by last year's 5%, and then 5% is just totally unrealistic. I say stick by the people that stick by you.
Thank you. Next. Either one of you.
Yes, my name is Robert Carmen. I live at 1800 Buttonwood Drive, Oldsmar, retired captain from the City of Oldsmar Fire Department. I am in the FRS plan, and I can tell you that I am working a 40-hour-a-week job trying to survive. FRS is not all that great, let me tell you. That's all I have to say, and I support these guys 100%.
Thank you. Next. Yep.
Steve Langeri, 450 Bedford Street. It's been a long time since I've been in front of this council, a long time. Jerry probably remembers years ago. But anyway.
Both older than dirt?
The sun was smaller then, trust me. But what I've got to say, you know, you guys have all these numbers from the city manager. The union has numbers. Bottom line is you really have to just stick with what those actuaries are telling you. I mean, they can't fudge numbers. They can't make stuff up. They got to go with the information they've got, and those are solid numbers. It seems like, and I'm kind of new to the whole phenomenon, what's going on here, it seems like that you do have a pretty solid pension. Guys that start and work their whole careers, 10 years, 15, they don't do it for the money. They do it for pride. They're proud to protect these citizens. And for them to start over, that's hard. That's hard on their families. You got to figure a guy works 30 years, 10 years of his life, he doesn't sleep in his own bed with his family. And for them to start over again, that's tough. I just hope you all do the right thing by them. They're men that have honor and pride in what they do, and I think you should stick by them and keep their pension. Let the new guys come in under FRS if that's the city's pleasure, but the guys that signed up to do this job, that knew what they had going into it, that planned to make a career here and take care of these citizens, I think they should get what they've got coming to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Yeah.
My name is Joanne Ruby. I live at 556 Dove Terrace West. Let me say, first of all, I'm not a big union person. I never was in my whole career. I never belonged to one. I never really saw a whole lot of use of them. That being said, I worked 32 years in the corporate world. Things change in the corporate world, rules change, pensions change, benefits change, etc. In my experience and what I've heard from the rest of the corporate world, when things change, you keep what you have, and the people, new people coming in, get the change. I think we should do the same thing for these firefighters. They have offered that as a compromise to keep what they have. New people coming in will get something new. I think it's only fair, responsible, and the ethical thing to do.
Thank you. Next. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. My name is Pat Compatelli. I live at 8812 Grand Bayou Court in Tampa. I'm with the local 2294 Hillsborough County Firefighters Association. We're 900 members strong. I just wanted to say I was searching for a word that would describe this evening, and the word was sad. The current pension plan of the Oldsmar firefighters is over 99% actuarially sound. So if you want to round it up, we'll say it's 100% actuarially sound. One of the soundest pensions in the state of Florida. The facts show that moving these current firefighters into the FRS plan will actually cost the city of Oldsmar money. So why is the city manager wanting to make this move? I can tell you from experience that this move will hurt the morale of the firefighters. Firefighters that are beyond well-trained with a fire chief that is an ultimate leader. So I ask you, why? Why do this? If we can prove that there's no money to be saved, and if we know that this move will help to destroy the morale of these men and women, why? I can tell you that there's nothing like having a hometown fire rescue department. The dedication of the men and women is second to none. You're risking more expense to the city and possible turnover, and having to hire new firefighters at a realistic expense of $10,000 per person. Once you hire them, gear them out, get them trained. So I implore you to change your course. To go off my script, take some time with this matter. If you can make no move right now and dig deeper, do that. But I implore you, don't do this to the firefighters. It's really going to destroy the morale and cost the city more money in turnover. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Yep.
Paul Bolden, 503 Timber Bay Circle, Oldsmar. I came here without an agenda, really not knowing the facts, but I have to tell you, after listening to all of the facts, it's clear to me that the union's proposal seems to make the most sense, and I would implore you to support that.
Thank you. Next. Anybody else? We have about 20 minutes left if you would like to address it. Anybody? Sure. If you'd like to hear from the firefighters, this is the chance.
Good evening. My name is Gary Hurlbut. I'm a lieutenant with the East Lake Fire Rescue. I'm proud to stand here tonight in behalf of the Oldsmar firefighters. I come to your city on a very regular basis as a firefighter paramedic lieutenant. I picked up your residents bleeding in the streets. I fought fires next to your fire chief and these firefighters. I was a 3-alarm firefighter fire the other night in your district. Don't destroy the morale here. Morale is worth more than any dollars you have in your coffers. I've been in the system since 1991, with East Lake since 2003. I've grown up with these people. Oldsmar has been one of the best reputations to have in the county. People aspire to be here. Your city is a very busy city. You tax your firefighters and paramedics. They don't cry, they don't bitch about it. They do their jobs with pride. Let's not just talk about the dollars. Be proud. Your firefighters are. Just as Firefighter Compitelli had mentioned, morale is exactly another thing that's at stake here that is a guaranteed problem. I work with these guys left and right. I know I can count on them because they do a great job every time. Sunny days, stormy days, I can count on Oldsmar firefighters to be the best. Don't destroy that.
Thank you. Next. Jason?
Anybody else? I don't know, staying up or else. I think Jim kind of.
Name and address, please.
Sorry, Jason Schwabe, 768 Crystal Drive, or a third of the time 225 Pine Avenue North, as I've stated. We spend a lot of time here in the city.
You've never been shy before.
Yeah. You know, Jim's kind of covered our position. And I think a lot of the residents here have too. We're just asking for you to take care of us the way we thought we were going to be taken care of when we got hired here. You talk about contracts changing. Well, you use the pension plan to entice firefighters into the city to stay here. I mean, that's why there is a vesting period. You want them to stay a certain amount of time and knowing that they'll have that benefit at the end of their career. You're changing it up on us midstream. It's not the right thing to do. I think it will absolutely have an impact on morale. It already has. Just the implication that this change could be made and that we've come this far. It's just going to get worse from there on. And it is morale is a huge factor in our line of work. There's a lot of, we talk about the physical nature of the job, but there's more than that. There's an emotional nature to it. And you not only deal with the physical nature, but you're there with people during their personal tragedies. We're there alongside of them. I don't necessarily want 10 more years of performing CPR on babies, telling loved ones we can't do anything for them. It's not fair to do that to us when we were told when we got hired, you give 25 years of service to this city, you can retire with this benefit. I understand that the benefits change with the contracts over time, but this plan was promised to us when we got hired. It was used to bring us into the city. It shouldn't be changed midstream and cause us to start over again. We absolutely will have to vest another 8 years before we even get any benefit out of FRS. We could certainly retire at 55, but to gain anything out of FRS, we're gonna have to take a 5% penalty for each year. That will almost negate whatever we've accrued in FRS. Again, just ask you guys, take care of us like we thought we were going to be taken care of when we were hired. I understand that not everybody here was part of the council when that happened. I can tell you we've been having this battle for a number of years, and 4 out of the 5 of you have been here through that. You know that. This has been this kind of an issue.
Time is up.
That's all I ask.
Thank
Keep
you,
it the
Dave.
same.
Thank you. Anybody else? And I want to say this and make it clear that once I close this portion of this part of the hearing, we will begin to get in discussion and ask questions, but you will not be permitted to ask questions or come to the podium. So I want to give you ample opportunity. You have about 14 minutes, if my math is correct, on our total 30-minute time. So I want to make sure everybody that wants to be heard. Ruben.
Also.
Okay.
Good evening. Ruben Hernandez, 309 Exeter Street. The city has gone through the negotiation process with the union and has declared an impasse, knowing full well that it would go to a magistrate who is unbiased. I only ask that you please follow his findings. He had nothing to gain in this, and it is not only the fair thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. One more, I heard. Yep.
Hi, my name is Sharon Pacheco. I'm 522 Canal Way. I've heard a lot of numbers go by here tonight, but the fact remains, nobody's mentioned the fact that every day these boys go out on the truck and they put their lives on the line for us. I have a son who's a fireman in Safety Harbor, and every day he works, I pray that nothing happens to him, because he, like these boys here, are gonna do number one, to do their job, regardless. And I know my son would be the first in, as every one of these firemen here. And I'm sorry to say, to tell a man, you gotta cut his money and start over again, it's not right. Every day they walk out, they could lose their lives, but they do it for us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Any others? Yep, I saw an arm.
I'm Jean Little. I live at 37 Pelican Drive. Some of these good people have been to my house, both men and women, and they've been wonderful to me. And for you to possibly decide to put money over these people who risk their lives for us, and to dishonor them by putting money over their persons is just not the right thing. The City of Oldsmar made a pact with them. You should honor your commitments.
Thank you. Next, yep.
Jennifer Young, 3439 Rolling Trail. I have not been a resident of Oldsmar, but my husband has been serving your city for 14 years since my son was 8 months old. And a third of that time, he's been away from us for birthdays, Christmases, Mother's Days, Father's Days. He's been serving your citizens with commitment and honor. And I'm just asking that you guys return that favor. He also assesses risk every day. He walks on the job and determines whether or not risk is going to help make his decision or whether or not he's going to be committed to what the job was. And he chooses commitment. And I'm asking you to do the same, take on as much risk, probably a little less than what my husband does every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Caroline Cerveny, 557 Dove Terrace West. As I started my career, I was a math teacher. And one of the books I read at that time was How to Lie with Statistics by Polya. As I listened to both sides tonight, it became very aware to me that perhaps there are ways to try to convince others with matters that may have a little twist to them that perhaps need to be clearer in truth. And so I trust that when decisions are made, they are made on the best possible information and not just on the sense of a fear and a concern, what's going to happen down the line, that they're really based in facts that are true and actual.
Thank you. Next, I thought I saw a hand somewhere.
Way back here.
Yep.
Hello, Dawn Brennan, 10315 Seabridge Way, Tampa, Florida. My husband is a firefighter here at Oldsmar, but I just wanted to make note, as the gentleman said earlier, the last thing we want is to have 50-year-old and 60-year-old firefighters serve in your community. Of the 13 firefighters, 6 of the 13 ages as of last year were 48, 46, 43, 42, 41, and 40. You add 8 years to that, so you have anywhere from a 48-year-old to a 56-year-old that has to firefight until they're able to be vested in the FRS system. I don't want a 56-year-old coming to serve my community and my family. Something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, do you want to speak? We know what that noise is? Okay.
Well, on that note, most of you know me. I'm Jerry Gabardi. I live at 3670 Montclair Drive. I was here 30 years. 2 of those years I volunteered here. 28 and a half I worked here. So just to let you guys know right now, I work a full-time job. I'm in the FRS like Captain Carmen. Okay, I went out of here a little bit sooner than I anticipated, not by my choice totally. Okay, but I got to tell you, I got both my boys are in the Marine Corps. My daughter's a photographer. My wife's still working a full-time job. One thing nobody's really even considered was about health care. 1/3 of what I take home now, covers my health, this is my health care payment. So that's a big, big bite out of what they're going to wind up going home, because I know, because I'm right here to tell you that's a fact. But it's something you really need to think about. And I agree with everybody else. I'm 55, and I've been pretty blessed, and I'm in fairly decent shape, but it was time for me to go. And it is a young guy's job. So you need to think about the years.
Thank you.
Jerry.
Anybody else? One last chance. We have about 7 minutes if my math is, I don't know if it's right or not. Is it?
It is.
7 minutes?
7, 8.
8. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close that part of the hearing.
Right. And now this portion, now that you've heard from both the union and the city, is your opportunity to discuss amongst yourselves what you want to accomplish tonight and try to resolve this impasse. You've got the union's position, you've got the city's position, and you have copies of both those hopefully in your packet. So you can either start by making a motion and then discuss, or you can discuss and then take a motion, whatever is your pleasure.
And I will leave it up to the council. We can trudge forward. We could take a 3-minute break, whatever council's preference.
3 minute.
Good with keeping
Good
it?
with the break. 3-minute break.
Yeah, just, I've been sucking down water up here.
I want to get some more water, I know.
Okay, well, if that's okay with everybody, a 3-minute break so we can.
You all right? You all right? You'll be able to drive home? I suppose so.
You want to read my wedding vows? No, I want to hear them.
How are you, sir? Thank you very much. Vote for me. I should turn this off.
Except that then when somebody's hearing it later.
They wanted to put me in the hospital for an MRI. I don't know what's wrong. I can't move my hands.
I saw your son. You gotta get some more out there.
I got 1,000 of it.
You need more than
2
that.
hours to put things up.
Give me a day. Muscle relaxers that I couldn't get because they weren't covered in the nation. $175 for 21 of them. Then he gave me some inflammatory. Let me take those for a couple of days. I started 3 days ago. Then I got up yesterday morning. Then I got up this morning. I've been taking that for years. This is. I had my knees down. I've experienced pain. My knees were a lot worse than this. But this come out. I didn't ask for this. I asked for my knees. I told my wife, hey, call the doctor. I went over to Dr. Fire. And I got something important. Because nobody's going to like me after I get my speech done. You know, I've been in the hospital 15 times in the last year and a half. I've waited almost 80 years to get through this. I had cancer, and I got that. Had gallbladder attacks, I got that. And I had a massive hernia. I did that, and I've been going to Moffitt every 8 weeks for a year and a half. You know, just
Hands were sticking to the chair.
I told Dr.
I had to get up
I'm
once.
tired of it. How are you doing? See, that's something else I do. Hearing aids are home.
Otherwise, it gets contagious. I'm standing there for 3 hours. There's a little girl just doing a great job.
Oh, these kids are.
I've taken my limit on some of
I was going to mention about the patients and the.
I can't turn it.
I'm having a hard
I just sit right here and cry. Somebody put me in the hospital, take MRI, passing this up. People can get mad at me, but you know, this my duty to be here. I hate people that don't sit there and make a decision. They go off and hide somewhere. I hurt. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm not hurt.
I think I'm being punished. If y'all want to come to Daddy's Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, Mike Billeracus will be there, Gus will be there, Brian, Brian, Tim will be there. Ask them questions or get to meet them. You're invited. Coffee and rolls and whatever else that's 10 o'clock, Friday, this Friday, 10 o'clock. You're welcome. You can tell Gus whether you discussed it with him, or you can tell Mike he should have done something more. But you'll get to meet Brian. He's going to jail.
No, like somebody's.
Everybody. Probably not. Probably not. I think I might move to this. So conflicting.
But I'm thrilled that we have 2 or 3 people that are really doing this and developing.
We got a lot of people.
We had some young girls
that lost their pension. They're losing their housing.
It's really
because of agreeing somebody else.
You never know. I think she's like, that's how we put that.
400. We don't have it. We don't have it. That's part of life.
Up and down.
I think you keep the recess going a little bit longer today.
I'm ready to move on. I'm waiting for Jimmy. I'm ready to go.
Where is he? I'm disgusted. I don't want to get upset.
Oh, Dylan. Got Skype set up on my computer.
Bruce, you need it? Okay.
Because his boss won't do. So this is a mission of the company. And his boss
I told him, give me a couple of days. He gave me some inflammatory. Which I couldn't buy for $175 for 10 months. Find me something else. I've been in the hospital 15 times in the last I've been going back for 3 bad gallbladder attacks, so I didn't know what was happening. They took it out. 6 weeks ago, I had a really bad ruptured hernia. I said, what is this? And now this.
Like 2 people that family own it. I think it's probably better now, but they were like writing on notepads and things. So I think it was just.
Getting rid of sucks. What's that?
Are you sure you want to run for council?
Yeah, I'm sure, but I've never said that I'm not going to get it.
In 3 years, this might come up. It's fun.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah, I'm just trying to get everybody to say it. Yeah, okay.
It's up to the mayor.
Okay. Yeah. Just, yeah. We're going to give it about another 5 minutes. Some people, we only have a few bathrooms, so. So carry on.
You can talk.
We order pizza, maybe?
Yeah, I'll try to do it. It just depends if I have some friends in London.
I'm sorry.
There's like a music festival. And you need to get out. You need to get away. Hi, Julia. How are you? Are you recording? Okay, nice to meet you. Gabby. Linda. I think we did. We do? We did. I can't show you unless I take you into the bathroom. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad it passed.
Can you guys turn the mics off?
But I didn't even think last meeting about the roads when I said that I felt bad. I apologized to Mayor. I said I showed my everybody then knew I was I shouldn't do it. But I didn't think. Sometimes up here it's just the reason I didn't go by oh shoot. I love it though. I love it. I was at the beach yesterday, so for the first time, other people other than my friends got to see it. And I got compliments on it, and everything was so cool. I got planaria flowers when I designed planaria flowers in 3 different stages of opening. And then I didn't want planaria leaves because they're too big and boring, so I chose other kind of viney leaf and whiskey leaves. It's like do you have any? I do not. You just inspired her. Oh my God, did I just say that? No, it's not recording. Oh my God. Nice to meet you. Oh, I was crying. Okay. How do you turn it off?
You need to put your mic on.
Turn your mics back on.
I need a mic.
Okay, I guess we're ready to get started again. I don't know, Bruce, was there something else, something going on with you and the union?
Mr. Brantley? Would you like to address the council?
Mr. Brantley.
We have in the interim bathroom break reached agreement with the city on a tentative agreement that will close rather than freeze the pension plan. And that resolves the impasse. So we are no longer at impasse. And we will get this cleaned up and get it set for ratification. And if ratified, as we anticipate it will be, we'll have a 3-year collective bargaining agreement and we will move forward. And we appreciate all your time and attention tonight in an effort to get us to this place that we could reach agreement.
Are you telling me I can't make my speech?
I do not want to tell you that.
Nice. You better come over here and copy. That was so bad.
We'll try to get to that. Get 2 pages of notes that I was going to I wanted to make my speech.
Another 5-minute recess?
No, I want to move on.
I know.
Shouldn't take that long.
Wait a minute, I want to make my speech. Too.
The rest shouldn't take that long.
Oh, correct.
And a couple of things. I think this is a great moment. I think we heard a lot of testimony and a lot of motion. I got to tell you, personally, when we went to impasse, or we were about to go to impasse, I've had this engine 54 coin in my pocket every single day. And so I want you to know that this council knows that it's about you, but it's also about the interest of our taxpayers and our city. And we wouldn't be the great city we were if we didn't watch our dollars and our budgets. And we know how hard you guys work and what your families and your lives mean to you. And every day when I put this in my pocket, I thought about you guys and the tough decision that we had before us. And so I want to thank the city and the union for coming to get to an agreement on this, and I think it's awesome. So I don't know if anybody else has anything. I would love you to stay. We really only have a few more minutes. You know, if you've sat through this, we'd like to, come out and say hi and thanks, and thank you guys for being our firefighters, not only in the city of Oldsmar, but throughout Pinellas County. And so if you could hang out, we probably have maybe, 10 more minutes left, Bruce, do you think?
I have 35 minutes of council comments.
Can we scratch the council comments, Jerry Beaverland?
Who y'all are.
Yeah. We do have just a couple items, and I want to give special attention to the little ones that were here tonight. I had trouble sitting still, so. But if you'd like to hang out or if you want to go outside and talk, and we'll see you out there. But we only have a few more items really to go, and then we'll wrap up the night. So congratulations to everybody in the city and the firefighters. I was hoping that we would get to this and not have to make the tough decision. So thank you. Thank you for who you are. We really only do have a couple of items. I mean, it will probably take us maybe 5 minutes to get through these. Our next item under the city manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 9, approved contract with CH2M Hill Engineers for the watershed management plan. This is an update of the stormwater master plan. It covers the entire city of Oldsmar, 10.1 square miles. And the amount of this contract is approximately $220,000, half of which is paid for with a grant from the Southwest Florida Water Management District. The existing stormwater master plan was created about, I believe, in 2002 or 3, so that's been over 10 years ago. Have any questions or comments? I'd be happy to respond to those. I recommend approval of the agreement with CH2M Hill Engineers Incorporated for the watershed management plan.
So moved.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you. Mayor and council, the next item, consider proposed millage rate for the upcoming fiscal year 2014 and 15. As the council is aware, each year, millage rate are what we send to the property appraiser is used on the trim notices that are sent out in August. So some preliminary decision needs to be made this evening regarding the proposed millage rate for next year. I'm recommending that the millage rate remain as it is, 4.05 mils, and that you authorize me to certify that to the property appraiser. As you're aware, this process, as we go forward in developing, reviewing, and approving a budget for the new year, the millage rate could be reduced, but it could not be increased from what we certify to the property appraiser. So that is the recommendation. Authorize the city manager to certify a proposed millage rate of 4.45 mils to the property appraiser.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? What year is it? I know you were part of the, how many years is this that it's never gone up?
7.
Well, that's just stayed the same, but it's also gone down. It's never gone up in
27 years.
27 years, it's never gone up. 7, it stayed the same. So again, in a testament to the city.
Lowered it twice in the worst economic conditions.
It's been down 3 times, twice as I was mayor and once when he was mayor. Now we're waiting for you.
Twice when I was mayor.
Yeah.
Twice when Jim was.
Oh, I should have approved a reduction just to get it.
Even once when you were mayor. Yeah.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. I think you voted, right?
I did.
Okay.
I shook my head.
Oh, you shook your head.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all for this evening.
Thank you. City clerk,
I have nothing.
keeping time, scoreboard over there. Beep, beep, beep. City council, we already covered the first 2 items. The next is scheduled work session for fiscal year 2014-2015 budget. Do you have some recommended dates?
Yes, we have a couple of dates for budget work session. The suggested dates are the first is Tuesday, August 12th, or the alternate date, Monday, August 11th at 4 p.m. And it would be held in the work session room here in the bank building. So those were the 2 alternatives, Monday, August 11th, or Tuesday, August 12th.
Anybody have a preference? Tuesdays always work good for me. I kind of block them out for the city.
Yeah, Tuesday's better for me.
How's your social schedule down there, Beaverland? Good?
Fine right now.
You?
Is it next week?
August 12th would be the Tuesday.
Doesn't matter. I'm outvoted anyway, so we'll just skip it on Tuesday.
What'd you say, 4?
Tuesday, August 12th, 4 p.m.
Fine with me.
Got
Is that a go?
Yep, to go.
Okay. Next one, I don't know. Approve the excused absence of Councilmember McGee from June 3rd. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? You're approved.
Aye.
It happened again.
Guys.
Council comments? Jerry Beaverland, Councilmember Beaverland.
I hate the Bayview light. Let me tell you what happened today. I'm trying to get to the doctor and had to change it around. The red light for Bayview stayed red. On Tampa Road to go east, stayed red. Tampa Road to go west just kept going. And this went on for 5 minutes. I don't know what happened. People were upset, they were honking, and I turned around in the middle of the road and I went over to Pine some other way to get to the doctor.
What can we do about that? I mean, we've had them come before us about what?
Can you get his cell phone number?
4 or 6 months ago? I've tried that number and it doesn't work. I think that was.
Because I think, I mean, y'all know this, but some people may not, that all of the signals on the state roads are owned and operated by Pinellas County. So other than saying a resident, or in this case, a council member, reported this issue at this time, that's all we can do, really.
We need to because, you know.
It just doesn't seem to be getting any better.
When the light going east stays red, and the light for Bayview stays red, and the light going west stays green for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, when did they come before us? 4 or 6 months ago? Something like that? And I mean, they said that, you know, they were tweaking the system and trying to work the bugs out, and we must have had a lot of bugs because I'm sitting all over the place. It doesn't really matter, so I don't know what we can do, but
And I have.
maybe get a number that works? Go ahead.
I've got one more article from my 4th book, and then it's over with. There'll be no more. I'm going to give it to the Historical Society Historical Society, I'm gonna give my book to the Historical Society, and then they can negotiate with this guy to get it printed in color.
Okay.
I can't afford to pay for another book. It's gonna be up to you this time.
Councilmember Roniker.
Thank you for who y'all are.
Congratulate.
Thank y'all for who y'all are.
I would again just want to congratulate the firefighters in the city for the spirit of cooperation. I think at the end of the day, everybody got a win-win situation, and I think that's all we ever strove for. I just got a couple quick things on our next agenda. Agenda for August 5th. I was asked, and I talked about this with Bruce before, but the no tax for tracks people had asked to make a presentation to the city. And I see on the next meeting, they got Greenlight Pinellas presentation, so it'd probably be fair to have both parties make their presentation at the same time.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So I'll give you that person's contact tomorrow, Bruce, and we can put them on the agenda for August 5th.
You want them on the same night?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do them both at the same time.
You have another night like this.
Well, because I think,
I just wanted you to know that they don't like to make presentations back to back. And I will tell you that when they came before Madeira Beach 4 weeks ago, the Greenlight people were there and refused to make a presentation, and they wanted it set in a separate meeting. So you may want to try to clear that because they don't.
Well, the election's on August 26th, and after that, I mean, they won't have any time, and the ballots go out
No,
on
it's
the 26th.
not till November 4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking my election on the primary.
Good plug.
Stagnated then. Whatever you want to do.
Plug.
in the spirit
Mr.
of.
Press might have a good suggestion to do them on different nights.
Yeah, usually we're not here until 10:30 at night, so.
Okay.
I'm thinking my
But
election.
we'll
Also,
schedule them.
I want to, in case you didn't know, and I told Bruce this about a month and a half ago, the Nielsen Corporation announced the other day that they are hiring 300 new people into the city of Oldsmar. So
Yep.
there's excellent news. They had asked me to put a lid on that until they made that announcement. That announcement came out the other day. Unfortunately, we're losing a company called Hydrodyne, which just bought a 107,000 facility in Pinellas Park, which is kind of bad because I didn't even know they were looking to leave, and I wish we would have. And the last thing I've got is Friday, I've got a meet and greet with former Congressman Bilirakis. Gus Bilirakis will be there, and so will the candidate for Judge Brian Battaglia. It's at 10 o'clock in the morning at Daddy's Grill. Public's invited. Please come out and meet us. I will also be there, and that's all I've got.
Councilmember McGee.
I also want to congratulate the city and the union for that was some bathroom break that we had there. But no, great to see. And obviously, none of us wanted it to come here before council because it is a tough decision. I did want to say that my father's 61 and he's not a firefighter. And I would give anything for him not to have to work another day in his life. And he's a long way away from retirement. And unfortunately, he did not choose a career path that allowed him to retire earlier than that age. And he certainly wasn't a firefighter. He's in corporate, working a desk job. And but he would not be able to do what you guys do at 61, and he probably wouldn't have been able to do it 10 years ago from all of his days of basketball. So, we definitely respect the years that you work and your retirement and your families and the time away from your families. I mean, when I did the ride-along with you guys, I was afraid to take a shower because the alarm was going to go off and I wouldn't be ready to go. So, we know and we respect that and always have the best interests of the city at heart. And when we say the city, that includes its public employees. So thank you guys both for coming to that agreement. And
If you ever write an article, strange things that happen in the bathroom, you're going to have number one.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Norris.
I could say the same thing because it was on a personal note. First of all, thank you for everybody that came out, the citizens, the firefighters, the public, everybody that came out, because, this really is what the democracy is all about. But on a personal note, I haven't eaten all day. I mean, if you think that this is easy, sitting up here and doing this, you're wrong, because as you see, facts get, are different on different sides. You get so much information from both sides for so many months and so many years. You have to do your own independent study. And so you hear everything and you do your own independent study, and still the weight of the decisions that we make is not an easy thing. And we love our firefighters, and thank God for Bruce and you guys coming to it before we had to, have that hard vote. Thank God. And to know, I mean, you guys have come to my house and helped me. I mean, so we do love you, and we do honor you, and we do want you to be comfortable here. And on the other note, the city has to look out for the taxpayers as well. If something is unsustainable, it's unsustainable. Luckily, we don't have to worry about that. Luckily, we have an agreement now, which is wonderful. So this is, I'm so happy right now. I'm gonna go home and eat. I'm gonna be able to sleep, you know? So that, plus I wanted to say, everybody also say a prayer for, you know, Frankie, with it being his gross. Thank you, Tony, for making the presentation. It being the anniversary of his death, is, you know, he's here with us in spirit. And one final thing, congratulations to Germany for winning the World Cup. It's more popular now. 1 billion people watched the World Cup. There's only 7 billion people in the world. 1 billion people watched it. So congratulations to Germany. That's it.
I don't really have any comments, but I might as well take my time because it sounds like it's pouring outside.
No, don't.
So Jerry, if you have a history lesson or something, you... No, just a couple things. Jerry mentioned it. We do have the Global World Series going on. I think it's a great thing for the city. That's tomorrow evening. And then the games, I think, start on Thursday and Friday. They try and play in the morning so that they get them over with. Also, we got nominated again for the Playful City USA, or we got selected, so we're part of that. You know, we got great parks and all that. But again, you know, thanks to you guys. I was a little worried if I was going to go home and my house was going to be on fire or something. I wasn't sure. I drove my car with my name on the back of it. I didn't know if that was a good idea. So, but no, I think it's great. So I don't have anything else. If not, if nobody else has anything, we motion to adjourn.
No, we need a tentative agenda.
Tentative agenda. And second. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Meeting adjourned.
Woohoo!